The void between dimensions screamed. It wasn't a sound, not truly, but Colonel Jack O'Neill felt it in his bones as the USS Odyssey shuddered violently around him. Alarms shrieked across the bridge, red emergency lighting bathed everything in crimson, and the view screen showed something that shouldn't exist, a swirling maelstrom of purple and white energy that looked like space itself was tearing apart. "Carter, what the hell is happening?" O'Neill gripped his command chair as another shockwave rocked the ship. Major Samantha Carter's fingers flew across her console, her face illuminated by cascading error messages. "Sir, the hyperdrive is experiencing catastrophic feedback. The Ori weapon fire must have destabilized our entry into hyperspace. We're not in subspace anymore, I don't know where we are." On the tactical display, the Ori warship that had been pursuing them was gone. In fact, everything was gone. The familiar star patterns, the subspace corridors they'd mapped over years of exploration, all of it had vanished, replaced by this churning dimensional wound that was rapidly collapsing behind them. "I am detecting massive gravitational distortions ahead," TLC reported from his station, his deep voice calm despite the crisis. "We are being pulled toward an exit point." Daniel Jackson stumbled onto the bridge, grabbing a support rail as the ship bucked again. "Exit to where?" "Jack, please tell me we didn't just accidentally create a black hole or something equally catastrophic." "For once, Daniel, I really hope you're right about it being just a black hole." O'Neill hit the shipwide comm, "All hands, brace for impact. This is about to get interesting." The Odyssey burst through the dimensional barrier like a bullet through paper. Reality snapped back into focus with jarring suddenness. The bridge light stabilized, the alarms cut to half intensity, and the view screen showed stars. Normal, beautiful, gloriously normal stars scattered across the infinite black. Carter let out a breath she'd been holding. "Hyperdrive is offline. Multiple Asgard crystal matrices are fused. We're on sublight only, but we're intact." She paused, her brow furrowing as she studied her readings. "Sir, these stellar formations, they don't match any known coordinates in our database. I mean any. It's like we're looking at a completely different." "Colonel." The tactical officer's voice cut through. "Contact. Massive vessel dropping out of hyperspace, bearing 270, range 50,000 kilometers and closing." O'Neill was on his feet instantly. On screen. "Shields up, weapons hot but don't lock on yet. Let's not start a war before we know who we're dealing with." The view screen shifted, and every person on the bridge fell silent. The ship was enormous, easily 1.5 kilometers long, a wedge-shaped monster of gray metal bristling with weapon emplacements. Its design was brutal, efficient, and utterly alien. Massive engine blocks glowed blue-white at the rear, and across its hull, O'Neill could make out what looked like launch bays for fighter craft. It was accompanied by 2 smaller escort vessels, each still larger than Odyssey. "That is not Ori," TLC observed. "Nor Goa'uld, Wraith, or any design I have encountered." Carter's console lit up with data. "Sir, I'm picking up active scanning. They're using some kind of electromagnetic sensor sweep, very sophisticated but different from anything in our database." "And Colonel," she looked up, her expression troubled. "Their power signature is massive. Those look like fusion reactors, maybe even something more advanced. This is a warship, and it's designed to dominate." "Hail them," O'Neill ordered. "All frequencies. Let's see if anyone's home." The communications officer worked his station, then shook his head. "No response, sir. They're not using subspace frequencies. Trying standard EM bands, still nothing." "Wait," he pressed his headset closer. "Sir, they're transmitting something. Audio only, unknown language." The bridge speakers crackled, and a harsh, authoritative voice filled the air. The words were completely foreign, clipped and military in cadence. Daniel stepped forward, his linguistic instincts immediately engaged. "Play it again." And bring up a spectrographic analysis. As the message repeated, Daniel's eyes widened. Jack, this is incredible. The linguistic structure has elements I've never seen before, but the syntax suggests a trade language, something designed for communication across multiple species. They're hailing us, probably demanding identification. Can you respond? Not yet, but give me 5 minutes in. Colonel, they're launching fighters. Tactical's voice was urgent. Multiple small craft deploying from the main vessel. Count is 12, no, 18 contacts. They're moving to intercept. O'Neill's jaw tightened. Battle stations. Carter, how are our shields holding? Asgard shields at maximum. Sir, we don't know what kind of weapons they're using. Could be particle beams, could be plasma cannons, could be. Guess we're about to find out. O'Neill's hand hovered over the weapons authorization. TLC, target their fighters but do not fire unless they do first. I want to scare them, not kill them. The alien fighters, sleek, angular craft with twin ion engines and a distinctive hexagonal viewport, screamed toward Odyssey in perfect formation. They moved with military precision, breaking into attack groups that suggested centuries of tactical doctrine. Sir, they're charging weapons, Tactical reported. Energy signatures building. I think those are. Green energy bolts lanced across the void, dozens of them, converging on Odyssey's position. They struck the Asgard shields with brilliant flashes, the impact sending ripples across the defensive barrier but causing no damage. Carter checked her console. Shields holding at 98%. Those are directed energy weapons, probably superheated plasma. Powerful, but our shields can handle it. O'Neill nodded slowly. Okay. They shot first. Let's show them what Earth brings to the party. TLC, disable 3 of those fighters. Plasma beams, minimum power. I want them limping, not dead. Acknowledged. The Asgard plasma beam weapons, gleaming pillars of blue-white energy that had reduced Ori warships to slag, flashed out with surgical precision. 3 alien fighters simply stopped, their engines dark, systems overloaded by electromagnetic pulse. They drifted, intact but helpless. The remaining fighters scattered immediately, their formation breaking as they recognized a threat beyond their understanding. The main vessel is changing course, Tactical announced. They're moving to engage. Sir, they're big, and if those weapons scale up. I see it. O'Neill's mind raced. They were in unknown space, facing an unknown enemy, with no hyperdrive and no way home. Starting a war would be spectacularly stupid. But rolling over would be suicide. Open a channel, visual this time, he ordered. Broadcast on every frequency we've got. Daniel, get ready to do your thing. The view screen split, showing both the approaching warship and Odyssey's bridge. O'Neill stood center frame, flanked by TLC's imposing presence and Carter's confident competence. Daniel moved beside him, ready to interpret or negotiate. Attention unknown vessel, O'Neill began, his voice firm but not hostile. This is Colonel Jack O'Neill of the Earth ship Odyssey. We are not from your galaxy and mean you no harm. Our arrival was unintentional. We disabled your fighters to demonstrate our defensive capabilities, not to provoke conflict. Please respond. For 10 long seconds, nothing happened. Then the view screen flickered, and a face appeared. The man, and he was definitely human, wore a uniform of gray and black, with rank insignia O'Neill didn't recognize. His expression was cold, calculating, and utterly devoid of mercy. Behind him, a bridge crew worked in disciplined silence, and O'Neill caught glimpses of technology that was both familiar and alien, holographic displays, crew pits, command walkways. The officer spoke, and this time, translation software kicked in, crude, but functional. The voice that emerged was stilted but clear. Unknown vessel. You have entered Imperial space and demonstrated hostile capabilities. By order of the Galactic Empire, you will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with destruction. You have 2 minutes to comply. Daniel leaned toward O'Neill. Jack, did he just say, Galactic Empire? As in, an actual empire spanning multiple star systems? Yep. O'Neill's expression didn't change. And I'm guessing they're not the friendly kind. Carter pulled up tactical data. Sir, that ship, if I'm reading this right, it's classified as a Star Destroyer. And according to the energy signatures I'm picking up, there are dozens more out there. Maybe hundreds. O'Neill looked at his team, his family, forged through years of impossible missions and victories against gods. They were alone, light years from Earth in every sense. But they were SG-1. And SG-1 didn't surrender. All right, kids, he said quietly. Looks like we just crashed somebody's galactic dictatorship. Let's see if we can talk our way out before we have to shoot our way out. He turned back to the view screen, meeting the Imperial officer's cold gaze. Yeah, about that boarding thing, O'Neill said. We're going to have to decline. But we're willing to talk. Just, maybe skip the death threats next time. They're really not our style. The Imperial officer's expression hardened. Behind the Star Destroyer, hyperspace windows began opening. One by one, more massive warships dropped into real space, surrounding the Odyssey in a formation designed for one purpose, total annihilation. This is your final warning, the officer said. Comply, or be destroyed. O'Neill glanced at Carter. She gave him a slight nod, shields were holding, weapons ready. He looked back at the screen and smiled his most infuriating smile. You know what? How about option 3, we all take a breath, nobody does anything stupid, and we figure out a way where everyone goes home alive. Sound good? The comm channel went dark. Carter, how long until they open fire? Sir, I'd say we've got about 30 seconds before. Every Star Destroyer powered weapons simultaneously. The space around Odyssey lit up with targeting locks. Red alert. O'Neill dropped into his chair. All hands to battle stations. Looks like we're doing this the hard way. Again. The Force bound all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web. But the USS Odyssey and its crew existed outside that web, and that made them the most dangerous unknown the Empire had encountered in a generation. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The first volley came from 6 different vectors simultaneously. Turbo-laser fire, massive green bolts of superheated plasma, converged on Odyssey's position with mathematical precision. Each bolt carried enough energy to vaporize a small building. 60 of them struck the Asgard shields in the span of 3 heartbeats. The bridge shook, but Carter's voice remained steady. Shields holding at 82%. Sir, those weapons are impressive, cruder than Ori pulse cannons, but the sheer volume is compensating for lack of sophistication. Nice analysis, Carter. Now tell me how we don't die. O'Neill gripped his armrests as another salvo hammered their defenses. Colonel, I recommend we demonstrate overwhelming force, TLC said, his fingers poised over the weapons console. A show of superior firepower may convince them to negotiate. Or it'll make them call in reinforcements, Daniel countered, bracing himself against a bulkhead. Jack, these people clearly have military protocols for first contact, and we just failed their compliance test. Maybe we should. Incoming transmission. The communications officer's voice cut through. Audio only, same channel as before. Put it through. O'Neill straightened. Maybe someone over there has a brain. The harsh voice from before filled the bridge, but this time the translation was clearer, the computer was adapting. Unknown vessel. Your shields are impressive, but you are outnumbered 6 to 1. We are authorized to use escalating force. Stand down, or we will demonstrate the full power of Imperial Star Destroyers. O'Neill leaned forward. Look, we've already established that you guys hit hard. But so do we, and I really don't want to turn this into a demolition derby. How about we all agree that nobody wants a fight and we talk like civilized? Captain, the lead Star Destroyer is diverting auxiliary power to forward batteries, Tactical interrupted. They're preparing for a concentrated barrage. If they focus fire on one shield quadrant. Carter, can we jump to FTL? Even a short hop? Negative, sir. Hyperdrive is still completely offline. I'd need at least 6 hours and parts we don't have to even attempt repairs. Sublight? We can outmaneuver them in close quarters, their ships are massive and look sluggish, but we can't outrun them in open space. Those ion drives are efficient for sustained pursuit. O'Neill's jaw tightened. They'd faced impossible odds before, Apophysa's fleet, Anubis's armada, Ori warships, but those enemies had given them room to maneuver, time to think. This empire was boxing them in with overwhelming numbers and systematic tactics. Military professionals. Dangerous ones. All right, he said quietly. TLC, target the lead Star Destroyer. Hit their shield generators, I'm betting they've got them on the exterior like most capital ships. Plasma beams, full power. Let's see if we can make them blink. Targeting now. The Asgard plasma beams lanced out, brilliant blue-white columns of directed energy that could slice through Ori hull plating. They struck the Star Destroyer's forward shield emitters dead center. The Imperial shields flared, rippled, and collapsed in spectacular fashion. The beams continued forward, cutting deep gouges across the Star Destroyer's hull. Metal vaporized, armor plating peeled away, and secondary explosions blossomed along the ship's superstructure. But the Star Destroyer didn't break. It didn't retreat. Carter's console lit up with new data. Sir, their shields are regenerating. Slower than Asgard shields, but they're adaptive. And I'm reading massive power redirects, they're reinforcing damaged sections and, she looked up sharply. Colonel, all 6 Star Destroyers are charging their primary weapons. I think we just made them angry. Story of my life, O'Neill muttered. Evasive maneuvers. Bring us about, keep our forward shields toward the heaviest concentration. Tactical, prep F-302s for launch. If they want a furball, we'll give them one. The Odyssey banked hard, her sublight engines flaring brilliant blue as she cut through space with an agility no Star Destroyer could match. The Imperial formation adjusted, trying to maintain their firing solution, but Carter was right, the massive wedge-shaped ships moved like freight trains. F-302 squadron launching, Tactical reported. 12 fighters away, forming defensive screen. Through the view screen, O'Neill watched as Odyssey's pride and joy, the F-302 space superiority fighters, streaked into the void. Each one was equipped with Asgard plasma cannons and missiles capable of punching through gold Hotak armor. Against the smaller Imperial TIE fighters still swarming around them, they should be devastating. Colonel, incoming transmission, communications announced. Different source. It's encrypted, but not Imperial encryption. Someone else is trying to reach us. O'Neill and Carter exchanged glances. Put it through. Looks like we've got spectators. A new voice filled the bridge, younger, urgent, with an accent O'Neill couldn't place. Unknown ship, this is Rebel Alliance Intelligence Operative Gold 7. You need to get out of that sector immediately. You've drawn the attention of an Imperial picket fleet, and they will not stop until you're destroyed or captured. If you can hear this, transmit on frequency Theta 9 and we can guide you to neutral space. Daniel stepped forward. Rebel Alliance. Jack, that means there's an organized resistance to this empire. If there's a rebellion, then maybe. Maybe they're the good guys, maybe they're terrorists, maybe they're both, O'Neill cut him off. We don't know enough yet. He raised his voice. Gold 7, this is Colonel O'Neill. We appreciate the offer, but we're not in a position to run right now. Our faster-than-light drive is offline and those Imperial ships are boxing us in. Unless you've got a miracle in your pocket. The transmission crackled with static, then the voice returned. You have FTL capability? What kind of drive system? Not hyperdrive, your ship didn't arrive through normal hyperspace lanes. Carter leaned toward the comm. This is Major Carter. Our hyperdrive operates on different principles than your technology, we use subspace rather than hyperspace. It's damaged beyond field repair. There was a pause. When Gold 7 spoke again, his voice carried genuine surprise. You're not from this galaxy, are you? Long story, O'Neill said. Short version, dimensional accident, now we're here, would love to get home but first we need to not die. Any suggestions that don't involve surrendering to an evil empire? Colonel, 3 more Star Destroyers just dropped out of hyperspace, tactical cut in. Imperial reinforcements. We're now outnumbered 9-1. On the view screen, the new arrivals maneuvered into position with practiced efficiency. These weren't random patrol ships, this was a coordinated response to a significant threat. The Empire was taking Odyssey seriously. Sir, F-302s are engaging TIE fighters, tactical continued. Initial reports show our fighters have superior maneuverability and firepower, but the TIEs have numbers. Also, Colonel, you need to see this. A tactical feed appeared on the secondary display. One of the F-302s had locked onto a TIE fighter and fired a plasma burst. The TIE exploded instantly, its lack of shields making it vulnerable to any direct hit. But 3 more TIEs immediately converged on the F-302's position, firing in coordinated sequence. Those pilots are good, O'Neill observed. Kamikaze good. They're treating this like a swarm attack. Indeed, TLC confirmed. Their individual craft are inferior, but their tactics compensate. They are sacrificing some to overwhelm others. Gold 7, you still there? O'Neill called. Because I could really use that miracle about now. Colonel, I can transmit coordinates to a nearby nebula, it'll mask your sensor signature and buy you time. But you need to break through their formation first. Can your ship handle sustained fire while making a run? Carter checked her readouts. Our shields can take it if we route all power to forward defenses. But Colonel, once we're in a nebula without sensors, we're blind. We won't know if the Empire is waiting on the other side. Versus definitely being blown up here. O'Neill shook his head. I'll take maybe getting blown up later. Gold 7, transmit those coordinates. Sending now. Colonel, one more thing. The Empire will classify your ship as a priority threat. They'll hunt you across every system if they have to. You've just made enemies of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Yeah, well, we've got experience with that, O'Neill replied. Thanks for the warning. The coordinates appeared on Carter's console. She plotted a course, her fingers dancing across Asgard holographic displays. Sir, I've got it. The nebula is 40,000 kilometers spinward. At maximum sublight, we can reach it in 8 minutes. But we'll be running the gauntlet through their firing lanes. Do it. All power to forward shields, prep aft missiles for covering fire. TLC, keep those plasma beams cycling, I want them too busy dodging to get a clean shot. Acknowledged. Odyssey's engines flared to full power, and the ship surged forward. The Star Destroyers adjusted immediately, their turbolaser batteries tracking the Earth vessel's trajectory and opening fire with devastating volume. The bridge became a symphony of chaos, alarms, status reports, the constant shudder of impacts against shields. Carter called out shield percentages like a countdown, 70%, 62, 58. TLC's plasma beams carved through the void, forcing 2 Star Destroyers to divert power to their own shields. F-302s danced through TIE swarms, their pilots' voices crackling over tactical channels. Splash 2. 3 on my 6, need support. Fox 2, missile away. 45% shields, Carter announced. Regeneration can't keep up with this volume. We need to. Colonel, something's happening with the lead Star Destroyer, Tactical interrupted. They're launching something big. Not fighters. Looks like a massive object detached from the Star Destroyer's ventral hangar, a sphere nearly 50 meters across, bristling with weapons and armor plating. It moved with surprising speed, vectoring directly toward Odyssey. Daniel squinted at the display. Is that a boarding craft? Looks like it, Carter confirmed. And it's shielded. Sir, if that thing attaches to our hull. Not happening. O'Neill's voice was ice. TLC, target that boarding sphere. Full spread, plasma beams and rail guns. Blow it out of space. The weapon's fire converged on the sphere. Plasma beams hammered its shields while rail gun rounds, depleted uranium slugs fired at a significant fraction of light speed, struck with kinetic fury. The sphere's shields collapsed, and the rail gun rounds punched through its armor like tissue paper. It exploded in a brilliant fireball, debris scattering across space. But 2 more spheres had already launched. 30% shields, Carter warned. Colonel, we're not going to make it to the nebula like this. We need, wait. Her eyes widened as new contacts appeared on sensors. Sir, multiple small craft just dropped out of hyperspace. Different configuration than Imperial ships. There. I think they're here to help us. On the view screen, a dozen sleek fighters appeared, X-Wings, though O'Neill didn't know that name yet. They bore orange and white markings and dove immediately into the TIE fighter swarm with aggressive precision. Gold 7's voice returned. Colonel O'Neill, rebel fighters are engaging Imperial forces. You have your window, go, now. The X-Wings fought with desperate courage, their S-foils locked in attack position, proton torpedoes streaking into TIE formations. They couldn't win, couldn't even survive for long against 9 Star Destroyers, but they bought precious seconds. Full power to engines. O'Neill ordered. Get us to that nebula. Odyssey accelerated, her Asgard shields flickering under sustained bombardment. 20%. 15. The nebula loomed ahead, a swirling mass of ionized gas and particulate matter that would scatter sensors and provide cover. 10% shields. Almost there, Carter breathed. 5%. The nebula's outer edge rushed toward them. Brace for. Odyssey plunged into the nebula, and the universe dissolved into swirling crimson clouds. Sensors immediately degraded, the Imperial fleet vanishing behind layers of interference. Turbolaser fire stopped, unable to track through the dense gas. Silence fell across the bridge. O'Neill slowly released his grip on his armrests. Status? Shields regenerating, Carter reported. We're at 18% and climbing. Hull integrity intact. Engines nominal. We're okay, sir. F-302s. All 12 fighters recovered. Some damage, no casualties. Daniel let out a long breath. Jack, those rebel pilots, they sacrificed themselves to give us an escape window. I know. O'Neill's jaw tightened. Communications, can we reach Gold 7? Negative, sir. The nebula is blocking all transmissions beyond a few hundred kilometers. O'Neill stood, moving to the view screen where the nebula's crimson clouds swirled in hypnotic patterns. Somewhere out there, the Empire was hunting them. Somewhere, rebels were fighting against impossible odds. And somewhere, infinitely far away across dimensional barriers, Earth continued without them. All right, people, he said quietly. We've just gate-crashed someone else's war. Now we need to figure out whose side we're on, if anyone's. Carter, I want a full damage assessment and a realistic timeline for hyperdrive repairs. TLC, debrief with F-302 pilots and analyze Imperial tactics. Daniel, start working on that language. I want to be able to talk to these people without computer translation. He paused, then added, and someone find out what the hell a Galactic Empire is and why rebels are fighting them. Because something tells me we just landed in the middle of something a lot bigger than a border dispute. The crew moved to their tasks, efficient and determined. Jack O'Neill stared into the crimson void and thought about home. About Earth. About the SGC waiting for a report that would never come. They were alone in a galaxy that didn't know Earth existed, facing an empire that spanned thousands of worlds, with a broken hyperdrive and finite ammunition. He smiled grimly. Just another Tuesday for SG-1. The nebula was both sanctuary and prison. For 3 hours, the USS Odyssey drifted through crimson clouds while Carter's engineering teams worked frantically on the hyperdrive and damage control parties sealed hull breaches. The Asgard shields had held, but barely, another minute under that bombardment and they would have been fighting with naked hull plating. O'Neill sat in his ready room, reviewing tactical reports on a datapad while nursing cold coffee. The preliminary analysis of the Imperial ships was sobering. The Star Destroyers were technological marvels in their own right, massive fusion reactors, sophisticated shield generators, thousands of crew working in coordinated efficiency. They weren't primitives. They were a mature spacefaring civilization with military doctrine refined over generations. And they'd called reinforcements the moment Odyssey showed teeth. A chime at his door pulled him from dark thoughts. Come. Daniel entered, carrying his own datapad and wearing the expression he got when he discovered something fascinating and troubling in equal measure. Jack, you need to hear this. Good news or bad news? Both, depending on your perspective. Daniel activated a holographic display, showing waveform patterns and linguistic structures. I've been analyzing the Imperial transmissions and cross-referencing them with the Rebel communication. The language is called BASIC. It's a galactic trade language, sort of a lingua franca for thousands of species. But Jack, here's the interesting part, it's not just a language. It's the dominant language across an entire galaxy. That level of linguistic homogenization suggests a unified government, O'Neill finished. Or one that used to be unified. Exactly. I did some more digging through the fragments of their transmissions, and I found references to something called the Galactic Republic, past tense. Apparently, it was replaced by this empire relatively recently. Maybe a generation ago, maybe less. O'Neill leaned back. So we're looking at a coup. Or a civil war that ended with the empire winning. That's my read. And if the rebels are still fighting, it means not everyone accepted the new regime. Daniel sat across from him. Jack, I think we need to consider the possibility that we just sided with the good guys by accepting their help. Or we sided with losing terrorists who'll get us killed. O'Neill held up a hand before Daniel could protest. I'm not saying they're wrong to fight. I'm saying we don't know enough yet. Remember the Tok'ra? The Jaffa Rebellion? Hell, remember the Rand Protectorate? Good intentions don't always mean good outcomes. But the Empire tried to board us by force. After we appeared out of nowhere in their space with weapons that scared the hell out of them, O'Neill countered. I'm not defending them, Daniel. I'm saying we need intelligence before we commit to anything. A knock interrupted them. Carter entered without waiting for permission, her face flushed with excitement. Sir, I think I've figured out how their hyperdrive works. Or at least, I've figured out how it's different from ours. O'Neill gestured to a chair. Carter, you have my complete attention. Please tell me you found a way home. Not exactly, but, she pulled up schematics on her datapad. The Imperial ships use what they call hyperspace. It's similar to our subspace in that it allows faster-than-light travel, but the underlying physics are completely different. They don't tunnel through dimensions like we do. They access a parallel dimension that's literally underneath normal space, where the laws of physics allow FTL travel. It's elegant, actually. Simpler than our Asgard drives in some ways. Can we retrofit our hyperdrive to use it? Carter's enthusiasm dimmed. That's the problem. Our hyperdrive crystals are attuned to subspace frequencies. Converting them to access this hyperspace would require completely rewriting the energy matrix, and we'd need exotic materials I don't even know if exist in this galaxy. Plus, without the Asgard to guide us, she shook her head. Sir, I'm looking at months of work, minimum. Maybe longer. The weight of that settled over the room like a physical presence. Months. Stranded in hostile space, hunted by an empire that commanded thousands of ships, with no way to call for help or retreat. Okay, O'Neill said finally. What about repairs to our existing hyperdrive? Can we at least get it functional enough to jump back to our own universe? I don't know. Carter's honesty was painful. The dimensional rift that brought us here might have been a one-time phenomenon. Even if I repair the drive, we might not be able to recreate the conditions that got us here. We could jump blindly and end up anywhere, or nowhere. Daniel cleared his throat. So we're stuck. For now, Carter confirmed. Sir, we need to start thinking long-term. Fuel, ammunition, spare parts, we have months of supplies, but not years. Eventually, we'll need to establish some kind of supply chain. And that means making deals with the locals. O'Neill stood, moving to the viewport where the nebula churned in endless patterns. Carter, what are our strategic assets? If we have to operate independently in this galaxy, what do we bring to the table? Asgard shields are our biggest advantage. They're at least a generation ahead of anything the Imperials have, more efficient, faster regeneration, better coverage. Our weapons are comparable to theirs in raw power, maybe slightly superior. The F-302s are more maneuverable than their fighters, but we only have 12. We can't replace losses. Transporters. Short range only, but yes, the ability to beam people and equipment through shields could be valuable. The Imperials don't seem to have that capability. What about our biggest weaknesses? Carter didn't hesitate. Numbers. They have thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. We're one vessel with 200 crew. We can win individual engagements, but we can't fight a sustained campaign. Every battle depletes resources we can't replace. And sir, she met his eyes. We're aliens here. We don't know the politics, the safe routes, the neutral parties. We're operating blind. Which brings us back to the rebels, Daniel interjected. Jack, they helped us. They risked their fighters to give us an escape window. That counts for something. It counts for them being desperate, O'Neill replied. Desperate enough to help an unknown warship just because it was shooting at the Empire. That doesn't tell us if they're freedom fighters or fanatics. Then let's find out. Daniel leaned forward. We have Gold 7's communication frequency. We can reach out, ask questions, gather intelligence. Maybe they'll. Colonel. The intercom crackled with the tactical officer's urgent voice. Sir, you need to get to the bridge immediately. We're picking up a ship on sensors. It just appeared at extreme range, moving directly toward our position. O'Neill was moving before the sentence finished, Carter and Daniel on his heels. They reached the bridge in seconds to find TLC already at his station, studying the tactical display. Report, O'Neill snapped. Single contact, bearing 147, range 90,000 kilometers and closing, tactical responded. Sir, it's not an Imperial design. Configuration matches the rebel fighters that assisted us, but this is much larger. Looks like a light freighter or transport. Carter checked her console. They're transmitting. It's Gold 7's frequency. On screen. The view screen flickered, and O'Neill got his first clear look at one of the locals. The young man couldn't have been more than 25, with sharp features, olive skin, and eyes that had seen too much for his age. He wore an orange flight suit with Rebel Alliance insignia, and behind him, O'Neill could see the cramped cockpit of what looked like a seriously modified freighter. Colonel O'Neill, the pilot said, his basic now translating cleanly through Odyssey's improved linguistic algorithms. I'm Lieutenant Varn Siros, call sign Gold 7. I've been authorized to make direct contact and offer asylum. Asylum from what? O'Neill kept his voice neutral. The Empire. Varn's expression was grim. Sir, you need to understand what you've stumbled into. That picket fleet you engaged. They've already transmitted your ship's profile to Imperial Command. Right now, every Star Destroyer within 3 sectors is being rerouted to hunt you. The Empire doesn't tolerate threats, and you just proved yourself very dangerous. We defended ourselves, O'Neill said flatly. They opened fire first. I know. But the Empire doesn't care about justifications. You exist, you're powerful, and you're not under their control. That makes you an enemy. Varn paused. Colonel, I've been ordered to extend an invitation. The Rebel Alliance would like to meet with you and your crew. We have a base in a nearby system, neutral space, outside Imperial patrol routes. You'd be safe there while you make repairs and decide what to do next. Daniel stepped into frame. Lieutenant Siros, can you tell us more about this empire? What happened to the Republic you replaced? Varn's face darkened. The Republic fell 20 years ago. The Emperor, Palpatine, manipulated a war between the Republic and a separatist movement, then used emergency powers to transform the government into his empire. The Jedi Order tried to stop him. He exterminated them. The pain in his voice was real. Thousands of peacekeepers, murdered in a single night. Now the Empire rules through fear, slavery, and overwhelming military force. And the rebellion? We're what's left of the people who remember freedom. Senators, former Republic officers, citizens who refuse to kneel. We're outgunned, outmanned, and hunted across the galaxy. But we're not giving up. Varn looked directly at O'Neill. Colonel, I know you don't know us. I know you have no reason to trust us. But the Empire will never stop hunting you. You need allies. Let us be those allies. TLC spoke from his station, his deep voice thoughtful. Lieutenant Siros, what would the rebellion expect in return for this sanctuary? Nothing. Not immediately. Varn's honesty was disarming. We'd like to learn about your technology, understand where you came from and how you got here. And yes, eventually, we'd hope you might consider helping us fight the Empire. But there's no obligation. We help people who need it. That's what separates us from them. O'Neill studied the young pilot, reading body language, searching for deception. He saw exhaustion, determination, and something that looked like hope. Give me coordinates, he said finally. But Lieutenant? We're coming in with shields up and weapons hot. Nothing personal, it's just how we stay alive. Varn smiled slightly. Colonel, after what I saw you do to that Star Destroyer, I wouldn't expect anything less. Transmitting coordinates now. Welcome to the rebellion. The transmission ended. Carter immediately pulled up the coordinates. Sir, the system he's marked is 6 hours away at maximum sublight. It's in an asteroid field, good cover, hard to search. Smart place for a hidden base. Or a perfect ambush point, O'Neill countered. He turned to his crew. All right, people. We're going to this meeting, but we're going prepared. TLC, I want F-302s prepped for immediate launch. Carter, keep scanning for any surprises. Daniel, start preparing questions. I want to know everything about this empire, this rebellion, and this galaxy before we commit to anything. And if it is a trap? TLC asked. O'Neill's smile was cold. Then we show them exactly why Earth doesn't lose. The Odyssey's engines flared to life, and the great ship emerged from the nebulous crimson embrace. Ahead lay an unknown star system, potential allies who might be terrorists, and an empire that commanded the military might of an entire galaxy. Behind them, invisible in the churning gas clouds, Imperial probe droids silently transmitted their position. The Emperor's gaze had found them. And Darth Vader was already en route. The asteroid field was a graveyard of shattered worlds. Massive rocks tumbled through the void in complex orbital patterns, some as small as fighters, others large enough to qualify as moons. Navigation required constant micro-adjustments, and even Odyssey's advanced sensors struggled to penetrate the dense mineral interference. Perfect place to hide, O'Neill observed from his command chair. Also perfect place to get jumped by pirates, raiders, or anyone else who doesn't like visitors. Carter nodded, her attention split between navigation and tactical scans. "Sir, I'm picking up power signatures deeper in the field. Multiple sources, looks like habitation modules built into the larger asteroids. Definitely a permanent installation. Life signs? Hundreds. Maybe 1,000. She looked up. "This isn't just a base, Colonel. It's a full settlement. People are living here." Varn's voice crackled over the comm, "Colonel O'Neill, this is Gold 7. Follow my vector, I'll guide you through the safe corridors. The asteroids are mined with proximity sensors, and some of the rocks have automated defense platforms. Don't want any accidents." "Copy that, Gold 7. O'Neill gestured to the helm officer. "Stay on his tail. Nice and easy." The modified freighter, which Daniel had identified as a YT-1300 model from scattered references and intercepted transmissions, weaved through the asteroid field with practiced ease. Odyssey followed, her bulk less suited to the tight navigation but her Asgard maneuvering thrusters providing enough precision to avoid catastrophe. As they penetrated deeper, the rebel base revealed itself. 3 massive asteroids had been hollowed out and connected by pressurized tubes, creating a hidden warren of hangars, living quarters, and command facilities. Sensor arrays bristled from camouflaged emplacements, and O'Neill counted at least a dozen defensive turrets cunningly disguised as natural rock formations. Docked ships clustered around the central asteroid, X-wing fighters, battered freighters, a few larger vessels that looked like corvettes. "They're organized," TLC observed. "This is not a ragtag collection of malcontents. This is a military installation with proper defensive doctrine. Which makes them either competent allies or dangerous enemies," O'Neill replied. "Let's figure out which." Varn's freighter docked at the central asteroid's primary hangar. The massive bay doors, carved from solid rock and reinforced with metal plating, opened to reveal a bustling interior. Dozens of rebel personnel moved with purpose, mechanics working on fighters, supply crews hauling cargo, officers reviewing tactical displays. "Colonel, they're hailing us," communications reported. "Requesting permission to dock." O'Neill stood. "Tell them we'll maintain position outside the hangar. We're not parking inside where we can be boxed in. TLC, Carter, Daniel, you're with me. We're taking a shuttle over for face-to-face. Tactical, if anything happens to us, you have authorization to defend this ship by any means necessary." "Understood, sir." The gold cargo shuttle, repurposed from a captured Hotak years ago, detached from Odyssey and crossed the short distance to the rebel hangar. O'Neill, dressed in standard SG-1 tactical gear with a Zat gun and Beretta holstered at his sides, led his team down the ramp. The hangar was surprisingly clean for a military installation. The air smelled of ozone, hydraulic fluid, and something cooking from a nearby mess area. Rebel personnel stopped what they were doing to stare at the newcomers, humans in strange uniforms, carrying unfamiliar weapons, stepping off a shuttle that didn't match any known design. Varn approached with a taller man in his late 40s, wearing a general's rank insignia. The general had salt and pepper hair, a weathered face, and eyes that assessed threats with professional efficiency. "Colonel O'Neill," Varn said, gesturing to his companion. This is General Iron Kraken, Chief of Alliance Intelligence. Kraken extended his hand, a gesture O'Neill recognized. The handshake was firm, neither aggressive nor submissive. Colonel. Lieutenant Siros tells me you fought your way through half a picket fleet and survived. That's impressive. We try. O'Neill kept his tone friendly but guarded. General, before we go any further, I need to establish some ground rules. My ship stays where it is, with full defensive capability. My crew has orders to respond with overwhelming force if we're threatened. And we're here to talk, not to commit to anything. Understood. Kraken gestured toward a corridor. We've prepared a secure conference room. Your team can bring whatever weapons you're comfortable with. We're not asking you to trust us, just to hear us out. As they walked through the base, Daniel's anthropologist instincts kicked into overdrive. He studied everything, the mix of species among the rebel personnel, humans, but also blue-skinned Duros, orange-skinned Twi'leks, and others, the worn but maintained equipment, the propaganda posters showing a stylized starboard symbol. General Kraken, Daniel said, how long has this base been operational? 3 years. We rotate locations every 6 months, but this field has proven particularly resistant to Imperial scans. Kraken led them into a turbolift. The asteroid composition creates natural interference, makes it hard for them to detect our power signatures. Clever, Carter observed. We're asking for nothing except your time and attention. If you decide to leave after this conversation, you're free to go. O'Neill studied him, then nodded and sat. Carter and Daniel followed suit. TLC remained standing, positioning himself where he could watch both the door and Kraken simultaneously. Kraken activated the holographic projector. The galaxy appeared above the table, a spiral of billions of stars, divided into color-coded sectors. Most were marked in Imperial red. Small pockets of green indicated rebel-controlled or sympathetic systems. Vast stretches of yellow marked neutral or independent space. This is the current state of the Galactic Civil War, Kraken began. The Empire controls approximately 70% of inhabited systems. The Rebellion holds less than 5%. The remainder are neutral, unaligned, or so remote the Empire hasn't bothered conquering them yet. Daniel leaned forward. Those are terrible odds. Yes. Kraken's expression was grim. We're losing. Slowly, but steadily. Every month, the Empire tightens its grip. Every victory we achieve costs us resources we can't replace. We're running out of time, Major Jackson. Then why keep fighting? O'Neill asked bluntly. If the odds are that bad, why not negotiate? Surrender with terms. Because the Empire doesn't negotiate. Kraken's voice hardened. They conquer, occupy, and control. Systems that resist are punished with orbital bombardment. Populations that harbor rebels are enslaved. And anyone with force sensitivity, anyone at all, is hunted down by the Inquisitorius and either killed or turned into a weapon. Force sensitivity. Carter interrupted. We've seen references to the Force in Imperial transmissions, but we don't understand what it means. Kraken and Varn exchanged glances. Finally, Kraken said, the Force is difficult to explain to those who haven't experienced it. It's an energy field that connects all living things. Some individuals can sense it, manipulate it, use it to enhance their abilities. The Jedi Order were Force users who served as peacekeepers for the Republic. The Sith are Force users who embrace its dark side, power through passion and domination. And the Emperor is a Sith, Daniel guessed. The most powerful one in 1,000 years, Kraken confirmed. Emperor Palpatine orchestrated the Clone Wars, manipulated the Republic's fall, and exterminated the Jedi in a single coordinated strike called Order 66. His enforcer, Darth Vader, hunts down any surviving Jedi and leads the Imperial military. TLC spoke, his voice thoughtful. This force, it grants power beyond normal physical capability. Far beyond. A trained Force user can move objects without touching them, influence minds, predict enemy actions, even deflect blaster bolts with a lightsaber. In combat, a single Jedi could be worth 100 soldiers. And the Empire has multiple Force users, O'Neill said slowly, understanding the implications. While you have none. Kraken's admission was painful. The Jedi are gone. We have sympathizers, people who knew Jedi, who believe in what they stood for, but no actual Force users. We're fighting an enemy with literal supernatural powers using conventional weapons and tactics. Carter leaned back, processing. General, why are you telling us this? This is strategic intelligence about your weaknesses. Because you need to understand what you're facing. Kraken expanded the hologram, showing fleet movements. Your ship appeared on Imperial sensors as an unknown contact with advanced defensive capabilities. Within 6 hours, they'd classified you as a priority alpha threat and diverted 3 additional Star Destroyer groups to hunt you. The Empire doesn't tolerate unknowns, Colonel. They will find you. And when they do, they'll send Vader. Who is this Vader? TLC asked. Varn answered, his voice quiet. A monster in black armor. He can choke you to death from across a room. His lightsaber cuts through blast doors like they're paper. And he's destroyed entire rebel cells single-handedly. The young pilot met O'Neill's eyes. Sir, I've seen him kill a dozen soldiers in seconds. He's not human anymore, if he ever was. He's a weapon, and the Emperor points him at problems that need to disappear. The room fell silent. Finally, O'Neill spoke. General, what exactly are you offering us? Sanctuary while you repair your ship. Intelligence about Imperial movements and safe routes. Access to our supply network, limited, but genuine. And if you're willing, Kraken hesitated. Colonel, we've been fighting for 4 years with almost no hope of victory. Then you appeared. A ship with shields that laugh at turbolaser fire, weapons that cripple Star Destroyers, and technology we don't understand. You could change everything. Or we could get slaughtered trying, O'Neill countered. General, we're one ship with 200 crew. You're asking us to fight an empire that spans a galaxy. I'm asking you to consider it, Kraken replied. Not now. Not until you've seen what the Empire really is. He pulled up a holographic recording. This was taken 2 weeks ago on Geonosis. An agricultural world that sheltered rebel operatives. The recording played. O'Neill watched as an Imperial Star Destroyer orbital bombarded a city. Turbolaser fire rained down from orbit, turning buildings into vapor, vaporizing entire districts. The bombardment continued for hours. When it ended, the city was gone, replaced by a crater 5 kilometers wide. Estimated casualties, 200,000 civilians, Kraken said quietly. The operatives we'd hidden there numbered 6. 6 people. The Empire killed 200,000 to send a message. Daniel's face had gone pale. Carter looked sick. Even TLC's expression darkened. This is what we're fighting, Kraken continued. Not a government. Not even a dictatorship. A regime built on terror, genocide, and absolute control. Colonel O'Neill, I'm not asking you to join us out of altruism. I'm asking you to recognize what happens if the Empire captures your ship and reverse engineers your technology. O'Neill's jaw tightened. They'd be unstoppable. Yes. Your shields, your weapons, your transporters, in Imperial hands, they'd crush the last resistance in the galaxy. And then, Kraken met his eyes. Then they'd start looking for new galaxies to conquer. Maybe yours. The silence stretched. Finally, O'Neill stood. General, we need time. Time to discuss this among ourselves, time to verify what you've told us, time to understand the full picture. Of course. Kraken deactivated the hologram. Take all the time you need. Our facilities are at your disposal, mechanics, engineers, whatever you require for repairs. No strings attached. Except the string that comes when Vader shows up looking for us, O'Neill replied. General, if the Empire finds this base because we're here, then we evacuate and relocate. We've done it before. Kraken extended his hand again. Colonel, we're not asking for heroes. We're just asking you to think about what's right. O'Neill shook his hand, then led his team back toward their shuttle. As they walked through the hangar, Daniel spoke quietly. Jack, that footage. I know. We can't just ignore. I said I know, Daniel. O'Neill stopped, turning to face his team. Look, everything Kraken said could be true. Or it could be propaganda designed to recruit us. We need to verify independently before we commit to anything. O'Neill is correct, TLC agreed. We have faced enemies who claimed righteousness while committing atrocities. We must investigate further. Carter nodded. Sir, I'd like to request permission to work with their engineers. If nothing else, I can learn more about their technology and maybe figure out how to adapt our systems. Approved. But Carter, keep your cards close. Don't give them anything about Asgard tech until we're certain. Understood. They boarded the shuttle and returned to Odyssey. As O'Neill settled back into his command chair, he stared at the rebel base through the viewscreen. A rebellion against an empire. Freedom fighters or terrorists? The classic question, with the classic answer, it depends on who wins. But that footage from Geonosis. Sir, the tactical officer interrupted his thoughts. Long-range sensors are picking up something. Multiple hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. O'Neill's instincts flared. Imperial? Unknown. They're not broadcasting IFF codes. But sir, there are a lot of them. At least 20 contacts, possibly more. On the view screen, stars began winking out as massive shapes dropped from hyperspace. Star Destroyers. A full battle group. And at the center, larger than the rest, a super Star Destroyer, a wedge of death over 8 kilometers long. Red alert, O'Neill said quietly. Looks like someone found us. Carter's voice was tight. Sir, I'm detecting a unique energy signature from that superstar destroyer. It's different from the others. More focused. Almost like. The communications console erupted with an incoming transmission. No request, no negotiation. Just raw, overwhelming presence forcing its way through their systems. The view screen activated. A figure stood in a command bridge, black armor, flowing cape, helmet like a skull. Breathing, mechanical, rhythmic, inevitable. When he spoke, his voice was deep, resonant, and absolutely devoid of mercy. Attention unknown vessel. I am Darth Vader, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet. You will surrender immediately. Resistance is futile. This is your only warning. O'Neill met those dark lenses and smiled his most defiant smile. Yeah, about that, the breathing filled the bridge. In and out. Mechanical. Inevitable. Like the ticking of a doomsday clock. O'Neill had faced Goa'uld system lords who commanded fleets of Hotaks. He'd stared down Anubis, an ascended being with godlike power. He'd negotiated with the Asgard, traded barbs with Baal, and survived Audria's attempts at conversion. But something about the figure on the view screen, something beyond the armor, beyond the voice, triggered every combat instinct he'd honed over 3 decades of military service. This wasn't just an enemy. This was an apex predator. Colonel O'Neill, Vader continued, his helmet tilting slightly as if studying prey. Your vessel's capabilities are impressive. Your shields withstood sustained bombardment from 6 Star Destroyers. Your weapons crippled the Relentless with a single salvo. Most interesting. Another breath. You are not from this galaxy. It wasn't a question. O'Neill kept his expression neutral. That's one hell of a deductive leap based on a short firefight. Your technology operates on principles unfamiliar to Imperial science. Your crew emanates no presence in the Force, as if you exist outside the natural order. Vader's hand rose, gesturing to something off-screen. And your arrival coincided with a dimensional anomaly that our sensors detected across 3 sectors. No, Colonel. You are not merely unknown. You are alien in the truest sense. Carter leaned toward O'Neill, whispering urgently. Sir, he's right. If their sensors detected the dimensional rift, they know we're not just from another part of this galaxy. The Emperor has taken great interest in your presence, Vader continued. He wishes to understand your technology, your origins, and your intentions. Surrender your vessel. You and your crew will be treated as guests, not prisoners. Refuse. The breathing paused, then resumed. And I will demonstrate why the Empire's dominance is absolute. Daniel moved closer. Jack, let me talk to him. If we can establish dialogue. Daniel, that's not a guy who's interested in cultural exchange. O'Neill's voice was low. That's a guy who's here to take our ship by force and is giving us one chance to make it easy. TLC studied the tactical display. O'Neill, we are outnumbered 23-1. The central vessel alone is 4 times the mass of any Star Destroyer we have encountered. If it possesses proportional firepower, then we're in trouble. Yeah, I got that. O'Neill stood, moving directly in front of the view screen. Lord Vader, is it Lord? General? Your dark menacingness, here's the thing. We didn't choose to come here. Our ship was damaged in transit. We're trying to repair it and go home. We don't want to fight with your empire. Then surrender. But we're also not handing over our technology to a government that orbital bombards civilian populations when 6 people annoy them. O'Neill's voice hardened. We've seen the footage from Geonosis. So no, we're not surrendering. We're going to finish our repairs and leave. And if you try to stop us, you're going to find out why Earth's flagship doesn't lose. For 3 long seconds, Vader was silent. Then, Earth. Is that your world's designation? Damn. O'Neill kept his face impassive, but internally he cursed. Revealing Earth's name was a mistake. Now the Empire had something to search for, some trail to follow if they ever found a way across dimensional barriers. Lord Vader, a voice interrupted from off-screen, imperial, crisp, nervous. The rebel base is beginning evacuation procedures. Transports are launching from the asteroid field. Vader's helmet turned slightly, as if considering. Then he looked back at the screen. Colonel O'Neill. You have allied yourself with traitors and terrorists. This complicates matters. His hand clenched slightly. I am authorized to use any force necessary to secure your vessel. This is your final opportunity. Surrender, or watch your rebel allies die. The transmission cut. O'Neill immediately turned to his crew. Tactical, status on that fleet. Sir, they're moving into attack formation. The Super Star Destroyer, designation executor according to their IFF broadcasts, is holding position at the system's edge. The regular Star Destroyers are advancing, spreading out to blockade the asteroid field. TIE fighter squadrons are launching, I count over 300 contacts. 300, Carter breathed. Sir, we can't fight that many fighters and capital ships simultaneously. I know. O'Neill's mind raced. Helm, can we make a run for it? Punch through their formation and hit FTL. Negative, sir. Hyperdrive is still offline, and at sublight, they'll intercept us before we clear the system. Then we buy the rebels time to evacuate. O'Neill hit the shipwide comm, all hands, battle stations. Launch all F-302s. Marines to defensive positions. Engineering, I need every ounce of power you can give me to shields and weapons. He switched channels. Rebel base, this is Odyssey. We're going to engage the Imperial fleet. Get your people out while we keep them busy. Kraken's voice came back, shocked. Colonel, you'll be annihilated. That's Vader's personal fleet. General, if that Super Star Destroyer gets close enough to this base, you won't evacuate anyone. Now move. On the view screen, the Star Destroyers advanced like a wall of gray metal and death. Their turbolaser batteries began warming up, casting green shadows across their hulls. TIE fighters formed into swarms, their distinctive twin-ion engines screaming across the void. Sir, what's the plan? Carter asked quietly. O'Neill watched the approaching armada. We do what we always do, Carter. We improvise, adapt, and survive. He turned to TLC. How many Mark 9 nukes do we have? 12. Load 6 into torpedo tubes. Set yields to maximum, and I want proximity detonation, not impact. We're going for shock and awe. TLC's eyebrow rose fractionally, his equivalent of profound surprise. O'Neill, Mark 9 warheads in space combat have unpredictable blast patterns. The radiation will scatter their formations and buy us time. Do it. Acknowledged. Carter pulled up tactical projections. Sir, if we're going to engage, I recommend we use the asteroid field to our advantage. Their capital ships are too large to maneuver effectively in there, and the mineral composition will disrupt targeting sensors. Good. Helm, take us into the thickest section of the field. Tactical, arm all rail guns and prep plasma beams. When those Star Destroyers follow us in, I want to make every shot count. The Odyssey banked hard, her Asgard engines flaring brilliant blue as she dove into the asteroid field. Massive rocks tumbled past, some close enough that their shadows fell across the hull. The helm officer navigated with precision, threading between collisions with meters to spare. Behind them, 6 Star Destroyers broke formation and pursued. They're following, Tactical reported. But they're having trouble with navigation. Collision avoidance systems are slowing them down. Good. Give them something else to worry about. Fire Mark IXs, spread pattern across their formation. 6 nuclear warheads launched from Odyssey's torpedo tubes, their drives pushing them to significant fractions of light speed. They streaked through the asteroid field like artificial stars, arcing toward the pursuing Star Destroyers. The Imperial ship's point defense systems opened fire immediately, turbolasers attempting to intercept. They destroyed 2 warheads. 4 detonated. Space itself seemed to tear apart. The tactical nuclear explosions released energy equivalent to gigatons of TNT, creating expanding spheres of superheated plasma and electromagnetic radiation. The blasts caught 2 Star Destroyers directly, overwhelming their shields and flash-burning their hull plating. Secondary explosions rippled across their superstructures as internal systems overloaded. The other 4 Star Destroyers scattered, their tight formation breaking as captains desperately maneuvered away from the radiation clouds. Direct hits on 2 targets, Tactical confirmed. Both are severely damaged, reading multiple hull breaches, reactor instability. The others are regrouping but they've lost cohesion. O'Neill allowed himself a grim smile. Score 2 for Earth. Now let's. Sir, the Executor is moving, Carter interrupted, her voice tense. It's entering the asteroid field. The Super Star Destroyer advanced with terrifying inevitability. At over 8 kilometers long, it dwarfed everything around it. Asteroids that would have forced smaller ships to divert were simply obliterated by its forward shields or pushed aside by the sheer mass of its passage. Its weapons were magnitudes more powerful than standard Star Destroyers, batteries of turbolasers capable of reducing planets to slag. And somewhere on its bridge, Darth Vader watched. He's not waiting for his subordinates, Daniel observed. He's coming for us personally. O'Neill, I am detecting something unusual, TLC said, studying his console. The Executor is broadcasting a low-frequency energy signature that does not match standard Imperial power systems. It is directed. Focused on our position. Carter's eyes widened. Sir, is that the Force? Could Vader be using it to? The ship lurched. Not from external impact. From something else. Something that gripped the hull like an invisible hand and pulled. Inertial dampeners compensating, Helm reported, fighting the controls. Sir, something's affecting our maneuvering systems. I'm reading gravitational distortions that don't match any stellar body. It's him, Daniel breathed. Vader's using the Force on our ship. O'Neill's grip tightened on his chair. Carter, can the shields block it? I don't know. The Asgard shields are designed to stop energy weapons and physical projectiles, not psychic attacks or whatever this is. She worked her console frantically. I'm trying to modulate shield frequency, see if I can disrupt the... Another lurch, stronger this time. Through the view screen, they watched as a 100-meter asteroid simply changed course, vectoring directly toward Odyssey's position. Evasive. O'Neill barked. The ship rolled, Asgard thrusters firing at maximum. The asteroid missed by 20 meters, its momentum carrying it into open space. But 3 more were already moving. He's weaponizing the entire asteroid field, Carter said, all mixing with fear. Sir, if he can manipulate multiple objects simultaneously with this kind of mass and precision, then we need to break his concentration. TLC, target the Executor. All plasma beams, maximum power. I want that ship's shields lit up like a Christmas tree. For Asgard plasma beam weapons fired simultaneously. The blue-white energy beams crossed the distance in microseconds and struck the Super Star Destroyers' shields with catastrophic force. The shields flared, rippled, and for a moment looked like they might collapse. But the Executor was built to withstand punishment that would annihilate lesser ships. Its shields held, regenerating almost as fast as they took damage. And the asteroids kept coming. Sir, rebel transports are clearing the base, Tactical reported. They're making the jump to hyperspace. Evacuation is 60% complete. How long until they're clear? 3 minutes. 3 minutes. O'Neill watched as the Executor advanced, unstoppable, while asteroids converged on Odyssey's position like a closing fist. F-302s, this is Odyssey Actual, he transmitted. I need you to run interference. Get between us and those rocks. Use missiles if you have to, but keep them off us. Copy that, Odyssey, the squadron leader responded. Engaging. The 12 F-302s screamed through the asteroid field, their plasma cannons firing in precise bursts. They targeted the tumbling rocks Vader was manipulating, shattering them into smaller fragments that Odyssey's shields could more easily handle. But for every asteroid they destroyed, Vader sent 2 more. This is unsustainable, TLC observed. We cannot fight both the Executor and Vader's force manipulation simultaneously. O'Neill knew he was right. They were delaying the inevitable, buying time with a currency they couldn't afford. Then Carter looked up, her expression sharp. Sir, what if we don't fight him? What if we use his own attack against him? Explain. Vader's concentrating on manipulating mass, asteroids, gravitational fields. That takes focus, precision. If we give him something that breaks that focus, she pulled up a tactical display. There's a massive asteroid cluster directly between us and the Executor. Hundreds of rocks, tightly packed. If we detonate our remaining Mark IXs in the center of that cluster, the blast will scatter them in every direction, O'Neill finished. Including toward Vader's ship. He'll have to choose between maintaining his attack on us or defending his own vessel. Exactly. It was insane. It was desperate. It was perfectly SG-1. Do it. TLC, fire all remaining nukes into that cluster. Maximum spread, simultaneous detonation. 6 more Mark 9 warheads launched. They penetrated deep into the asteroid cluster, weaving between tumbling rocks until they reached optimal positions. Then they detonated as one. The explosion was apocalyptic. 6 nuclear warheads, each yielding multiple megatons, created a blast wave that shattered hundreds of asteroids simultaneously. Massive chunks of rock, some weighing millions of tons, were hurled in every direction with tremendous velocity. The expanding cloud of debris became a deadly shotgun blast aimed at everything in the vicinity, including the Executor. The Super Star Destroyer's shields lit up as thousands of asteroid fragments struck simultaneously. Even shields designed to withstand planetary bombardment struggled under the sheer volume. Smaller fragments were vaporized, but the larger ones, multi-ton rocks moving at thousands of meters per second, hammered the defenses relentlessly. And Vader's concentration broke. O'Neill felt it, the invisible pressure on the ship suddenly released. Now. Full power to engines, get us clear of this field. Odyssey's Asgard drives roared to life, pushing the ship at maximum acceleration. They shot through the thinning asteroid field, leaving the Executor behind as its crew dealt with the debris storm. Rebel evacuation complete, Tactical announced. Last transport just jumped to hyperspace. Then it's time we did the same. Carter, any chance we can? Sir, hyperdrive is still offline. But, she smiled slightly. Those rebel transports were using hyperspace. Their drives leave a distinct subspace signature. If I can lock onto one of those signatures and use our transporters to create a localized subspace field. English, Major. I can piggyback our ship onto their hyperspace wake. It won't be true hyperspace travel, but it'll get us out of this system. How long? Give me 2 minutes. You've got 1. TLC, keep the Executor busy. For the next 60 seconds, Odyssey's plasma beams fired continuously, forcing the Super Star Destroyer to maintain its shields rather than pursue. F-302s harried the damaged Star Destroyers, preventing them from regrouping. Carter's fingers flew across her console, Asgard technology interfacing with calculations about Star Wars hyperspace in real-time improvisation that would have made the Asgard themselves proud. Got it, she announced. Locking onto the last transport's hyperspace signature. Engaging transporters in 3, 2, 1. Space twisted. The Odyssey didn't enter hyperspace, not truly. Instead, the Asgard transporters created a bubble of localized subspace that latched onto the fading hyperspace wake like a surfer catching a wave. The ship lurched, reality blurred, and suddenly they were moving faster than light. The Imperial fleet vanished behind them. O'Neill slowly released his death grip on the armrests. Carter, where the hell are we going? Following the rebel transport's trajectory. Should take us to wherever their rally point is. We'll drop out of subspace in approximately 10 minutes. And the Executor? Can't follow. They'd need to know exactly where the rebels are headed, and their sensors won't have picked up the transport's destination coordinates. The bridge crew let out a collective breath. TLC returned to his station. That was, improvisational. That's what we do best, O'Neill replied. He hit the ship-wide comm, all hands, secure from battle stations. Damage control teams, report status. Medical, prepare for casualties. He paused. Good work, everyone. We just survived Darth Vader. That's going on the resume. Daniel approached, his expression troubled. Jack, we just committed to this fight. We attacked Imperial forces to cover a rebel evacuation. The Empire will classify us as enemies now. I know. Which means we can't stay neutral anymore. I know that too. O'Neill stared at the streaking colors of subspace transit. Daniel, we've seen what the Empire does to planets that harbor rebels. 200,000 people at Geonosis. We couldn't just stand by and, I'm not arguing, Daniel interrupted gently. I'm agreeing with you. For once, we're on the same page. The Empire is everything we fought against, the Goa'uld, the Ori, totalitarian regimes that rule through fear. We have to help the rebellion. Carter nodded. Sir, from a purely tactical standpoint, if the Empire captures our technology, they become unstoppable. Yeah. O'Neill's jaw tightened. All right. Looks like SG-1 just joined a rebellion. Someone tell me how we win a war against an entire galaxy. TLC's response was characteristically direct, the same way we have always won, O'Neill. Together, with courage, and by refusing to accept defeat. Works for me. The Odyssey traveled through the impossible space between dimensions, carrying Earth's finest toward a war that would reshape the fate of a galaxy. Behind them, on the bridge of the Executor, Darth Vader stood in silence. Lord Vader, an officer ventured carefully. Should we pursue? No, Vader's breathing filled the command deck. They have revealed their capabilities. Their ship is formidable, but not invincible. Their crew is skilled, but limited in number. He turned toward the viewport, staring at the stars. The Emperor will be informed. And when next we meet this Colonel O'Neill and his Odyssey, the mechanical breathing paused. I will be prepared. In the meditation chamber deep within the Executor, Vader reached out with the Force, searching for the ship that had eluded him. But he found nothing. They existed outside the Force. Outside fate. Outside destiny. That made them dangerous in ways even the Emperor might not fully comprehend. But it also made them vulnerable. Everyone had weaknesses. Everyone could be broken. And Darth Vader had spent 20 years learning how to break the unbreakable. The Odyssey dropped out of subspace transit into chaos. Dozens of rebel ships clustered in a dense formation around a battered Mon Calamari star cruiser, a massive organic-looking vessel that served as the fleet's flagship. X-Wings flew combat air patrol while corvettes maintained defensive perimeters. The entire fleet was clearly on high alert, weapons armed, shields at maximum. They're hailing us, communications reported. Multiple frequencies. Sounds urgent. On screen. General Kraken appeared, and for the first time since they'd met him, he looked genuinely shaken. Colonel O'Neill, thank the Force you made it out. We've been tracking Imperial fleet movements. Vader's deployed 6 additional Star Destroyer groups to search for you. He's turned 3 entire sectors into a hunting ground. Good to see you too, General. O'Neill gestured to the fleet visible through the view screen. This your full strength? Most of it. This is Home 1, our mobile command center. Kraken's expression turned serious. Colonel, what you did back there, buying us time to evacuate, engaging Vader's fleet directly, that saved 300 lives. The Alliance owes you a debt. We'll call it even after you help us fix our hyperdrive, O'Neill replied. Speaking of which, Major Carter needs to coordinate with your engineers. We're running on borrowed time here. Agreed. But first, Kraken hesitated. Colonel, there's someone who wants to meet you. Someone who needs to assess whether the Alliance can truly work with you long-term. Before O'Neill could respond, a new figure stepped into frame beside Kraken. She was perhaps 30, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style and brown eyes that evaluated threats with the same professional intensity O'Neill recognized from his own mirror. She wore white senatorial robes over practical combat fatigues, a woman prepared for both diplomacy and battle. Colonel O'Neill, she said, her voice carrying natural authority. I'm Senator Leia Organa of Alderaan, leader of the Rebel Alliance. General Kraken has briefed me on your situation. I'd like to discuss it in person. Would you be willing to come aboard Home 1? O'Neill studied her. Young for a senator, but everything about her bearing suggested someone who'd earned her position through competence, not inheritance. The way Kraken deferred to her, the way the bridge crew in the background straightened when she spoke, this was someone people followed. Senator, with respect, we just escaped one Imperial trap. How do I know this isn't? If we wanted to capture your ship, Colonel, we'd have tried during the evacuation when you were distracted. Leia's tone was frank. You have something the Alliance desperately needs, hope. A technological advantage that could actually turn the tide of this war. But I need to know if you're truly committed to fighting the Empire, or if you're just trying to survive long enough to go home. Fair question. Uncomfortably fair. Give me an hour, O'Neill said. I'll bring my team. But Senator, we're coming armed, and if anything feels wrong, you'll blast your way out and we'll all regret the misunderstanding, Leia finished with the ghost of a smile. Understood, Colonel. We'll prepare quarters. Home 1's hangar bay is transmitting docking coordinates now. The transmission ended. Daniel raised an eyebrow. She's impressive. Yeah. O'Neill stood. She's also desperate. Remember that. Carter, you're with me. Daniel, TLC, same as before. Let's go see if the rebellion is everything they claim to be. Home 1's hangar bay was a controlled storm of activity. Mechanics swarmed over damaged X-wings, welding hull plating and replacing scorched components. Supply crews hauled ammunition crates and fuel cells with practiced efficiency. Everywhere O'Neill looked, he saw people working with the intensity of those who knew they were losing but refused to give up. An escort of rebel soldiers, professional, disciplined, carrying well-maintained blaster rifles, guided SG-1 through the organic corridors of the Mon Calamari cruiser. The ship's architecture was beautiful in its own way. Flowing curves instead of hard angles, bioluminescent lighting, surfaces that looked grown rather than built. This vessel was not constructed, TLC observed. It was cultivated. Their escort, a human lieutenant, nodded. The Mon Calamari grow their ships from organic materials and then reinforce them with durasteel. Makes them tougher than Imperial ships of comparable size, more flexible, harder to disable with localized damage. Clever, Carter said, studying the corridor structure. Redundant systems integrated at the cellular level. No single point of failure. They entered a conference room that looked out over the hangar bay through a massive transparisteel viewport. Senator Organa stood waiting, flanked by General Kraken and another figure, an older man with neat gray hair and admiral's insignia. Colonel O'Neill, Leia said, gesturing to the admiral. This is Admiral Akbar, our fleet commander. He's responsible for our naval strategy and will be assessing how your ship might integrate with Alliance operations. Akbar stepped forward, his salmon-colored skin and large eyes marking him as distinctly non-human. When he spoke, his voice was measured, thoughtful. Colonel, I've reviewed the tactical data from your engagement with Vader's fleet. Your vessel demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything currently deployed by either the Empire or the Alliance. I have questions. Ask, O'Neill said simply. Your shields absorb sustained turbolaser fire from multiple Star Destroyers with minimal degradation. Your weapons disabled Imperial shields with single salvos. Your fighters outperform TIE interceptors in every measurable category. Akbar's large eyes studied O'Neill carefully. If you possess such overwhelming advantages, why did you retreat? You could have destroyed Vader's entire fleet. It was a test. O'Neill recognized it immediately. Akbar was evaluating whether they were glory seekers, pragmatists, or something else. Admiral, we're one ship with 200 crew and finite ammunition, O'Neill replied. Every Mark 9 warhead we use is one we can't replace. Every F-302 we lose is gone forever. We retreated because tactical victory isn't worth strategic defeat. We'd rather fight one battle we can win than 20 battles that drain us dry. Akbar's expression shifted, what might have been approval. A wise philosophy. The Empire has endless resources. We do not. He glanced at Leia. Senator, I believe they understand the true nature of this war. Leia nodded, then gestured for everyone to sit. The viewport showed the Odyssey maintaining position outside the fleet, her gray hull marked with scorch patterns from turbolaser impacts but structurally intact. Colonel, let me be direct, Leia began. The Rebel Alliance is losing. We've suffered 3 major defeats in the past year. Our supply lines are compromised, our safe harbors are being discovered and destroyed, and Imperial intelligence has infiltrated several cells. Without a significant advantage, we'll be ground down through attrition within 2 years. She met his eyes. You represent that advantage. 1 ship, O'Neill countered. 1 ship with technology that could change everything, Kraken interjected. Colonel, if we could reverse engineer even a fraction of your defensive systems, if we could equip our capital ships with shields like yours, we'd suddenly be able to engage Imperial Star Destroyers on equal terms instead of requiring 3-to-1 numerical superiority. Carter leaned forward. General, with respect, reverse engineering Asgard technology isn't simple. It took Earth decades to reach our current level, and we had the Asgard actively helping us. Your technological base is advanced, but it's different. Your power systems use fusion and hypermatter reactors. Ours use Naquadah. Your shields are particle-based. Ours manipulate subspace. The underlying physics don't translate easily. But they could translate eventually. Leia pressed. Maybe. Given years, proper facilities, and expertise we're not sure your galaxy even has. Carter's tone was apologetic but firm. Senator, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm being realistic. We can share some technologies, tactical innovations, weapons designs, maybe even basic shield enhancements, but wholesale transfer of Asgard systems? That's a decade-long project minimum. The room fell silent. Finally, Daniel spoke. Senator Organa, you said you need to know if we're committed to fighting the Empire. Can I ask you something in return? Of course. What happens after? If the rebellion wins, if the Empire falls, what comes next? Do you restore the Republic? Establish a new government? How do you prevent another Palpatine from rising? Leia's expression turned thoughtful. We rebuild the democratic institutions the Empire destroyed. We restore the Senate, limit executive power, ensure no single individual can seize control again. We've learned from the Republic's failures, the corruption, the bureaucratic paralysis, the emergency powers that Palpatine exploited. We'll do better. Will you? TLC's deep voice carried quiet challenge. I have lived through the fall of false gods and the rise of new tyrannies from the ashes of old ones. Good intentions do not guarantee good outcomes. What mechanisms will prevent your new government from repeating history? Honestly? Leia's candor was surprising. I don't know. We're so focused on surviving the next battle that we haven't had time to plan the peace that follows. But I do know that the Empire, what it represents, what it does, is fundamentally evil. Slavery, genocide, totalitarian control. Whatever we build after, it has to be better than that. O'Neill studied her carefully. She believed it, he could see it in her eyes, hear it in her voice. This wasn't political rhetoric. This was genuine conviction. Senator, why you? He asked suddenly. You're young for a political leader. Why are you in charge of a galaxy-spanning rebellion? Leia's smile was sad. Because I'm one of the few senators who survived Palpatine's purges and chose to fight. Because my adoptive father, Senator Bail Organa of Alderaan, was one of the rebellion's founders before the Empire assassinated him. Because I have resources, connections, and a planet whose people support the cause. She paused. And because someone has to lead, Colonel. When everything falls apart, when the institutions you trust betray you, when friends are murdered and worlds are enslaved, someone has to stand up and say, no more. I'm not special. I'm just willing to do what's necessary. The conviction in her voice reminded O'Neill of another woman, Sam Carter, stepping through the Stargate for the first time, determined to prove herself in a male-dominated military. Or Janet Fraser, fighting to save lives against impossible odds. Leadership wasn't about being chosen. It was about choosing to act. Alright, O'Neill said slowly. Here's what we can offer. Major Carter will work with your engineers to share what technology we reasonably can, tactical improvements, weapons refinements, maybe some basic defensive enhancements. We'll coordinate fleet actions where it makes sense, provide intelligence about Imperial capabilities, and generally make ourselves useful. In exchange for? Kraken asked. Help repairing our hyperdrive. Access to your supply network so we can maintain operations. Intelligence about safe routes and Imperial movements. And, O'Neill's expression hardened. Honesty. No secrets about what you're asking us to do, no suicide missions disguised as routine operations, no using us as expendable assets. We're allies, not mercenaries. Leia extended her hand. You have my word, Colonel. The Alliance treats its allies with respect and honor. We won't waste your lives or your trust. O'Neill shook her hand. Then I guess we're in this together. Fair warning, Senator, when SG-1 commits to something, we tend to win. Even when the odds say we shouldn't. Good, Leia replied, her smile genuine this time. Because the odds definitely say we shouldn't. Admiral Akbar activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Colonel, if we're to coordinate effectively, you need to understand the strategic situation. The Empire controls the core worlds, the heart of the galaxy, where the most developed systems are located. We operate primarily from the outer rim, less developed, harder to control, but also with fewer resources. He highlighted several systems in red. These are known Imperial strongholds, Coruscant, Quat, Corellia, Fonder. Each has massive shipyards producing Star Destroyers by the dozen. Our industrial capacity is a fraction of theirs. Then we don't fight them head-on, O'Neill said, studying the map. We hit their supply lines, disrupt their logistics, make them chase ghosts across the rim while we build strength. He glanced at Kraken. I'm guessing that's already your strategy. It is. But the Empire has adapted. They've consolidated their fleet deployments, reinforced key systems, and Vader personally leads hunter-killer groups targeting our bases. Kraken zoomed in on a sector. This is the Hoth system, an ice planet in the outer rim. We're considering it for our next major base. Remote, harsh environment, low Imperial presence. Defensible? TLC asked. Barely. We'd need months to establish proper defenses. But it's isolated enough that we might have time before the Empire finds us. Carter studied the tactical data. Sir, if they're setting up a base on an ice planet, we could help with environmental systems. The Odyssey has Asgard environmental generators that could support large-scale habitation in extreme climates. That would be invaluable, Akbar said. Major, if you're willing to coordinate with our engineers. Absolutely. But first, I need to assess our own repairs. General Kraken, you mentioned having facilities that might help with our hyperdrive? We do. There's a hidden shipyard at Ord Mantell, neutral space, outside Imperial control. They have expertise in exotic drive systems. It's not perfect, but it's our best option. How long to get there? 2 days by hyperspace. We'll provide escort, a full squadron of X-Wings and a corvette for support. O'Neill nodded. Works for me. Senator, if we're doing this, we should probably coordinate command structures. I'm not putting my ship under Alliance command, but I'm willing to work cooperatively on joint operations. Understood, Leia replied. You maintain autonomy, but we share intelligence and coordinate strategy. Admiral Akbar will be your primary contact for military operations, and I'll handle diplomatic and political matters. Fair enough. O'Neill stood. Alright, people. We've got work to do. Carter, start liaising with the engineering teams. Daniel, learn everything you can about this galaxy, history, culture, politics, whatever helps us understand what we're dealing with. TLC, coordinate with Admiral Akbar on tactical doctrine. Let's figure out how to fight a war we have no business being in. As SG-1 prepared to leave, Leia spoke quietly. Colonel, one more thing. You mentioned Earth, your home world. Is it common knowledge in your reality? Do your people know about other galaxies? O'Neill paused. We've explored our galaxy extensively. We've encountered dozens of alien species, fought wars against gods and empires, and established peaceful relations with advanced civilizations. But other galaxies? We've only scratched the surface. Why? Because the Empire will come looking, Leia said simply. Not immediately, but eventually. They'll want to know where you came from, what other threats exist beyond their borders. And if they find a way to reach your galaxy, she didn't finish the sentence. Then Earth becomes a target, Daniel completed, his face pale. Yes. O'Neill's jaw tightened. All the more reason to make sure the Empire falls. Because if they survive, they'll eventually find a way across. And I'm not letting Palpatine anywhere near my planet. Leia's smile was grim. Then we have even more reason to win, Colonel. For both our galaxies. As SG-1 walked back through Home One's corridors, Daniel spoke quietly. Jack, we just committed Earth to an intergalactic conflict. I know. If the Empire finds out about the Stargate network, about the ancient technology on Earth, about the defenses we've built, they'll want it all. I know that too. O'Neill stopped, turning to face his team. But we can't think about that right now. We're here, we're committed, and we have to win. Because the alternative, letting the Empire learn about Earth while Palpatine's still in power, that's worse than anything the Goa'uld or Ori threatened. Carter nodded slowly. Sir, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Full commitment, maximum effort. No half measures. Agreed, TLC rumbled. We have faced overwhelming odds before and prevailed. This will be no different. Except this time, we can't dial home if things go wrong, Daniel added quietly. O'Neill looked at each of them, his family, forged through years of impossible missions and unlikely victories. They'd saved Earth a dozen times. They'd prevented galactic wars. They'd stopped ascended beings from destroying free will itself. Now they were going to help topple an empire. Then we don't let things go wrong, O'Neill said simply. We've got 200 crew, one badass ship, and more experience fighting impossible wars than anyone in this galaxy. The Empire thinks they're unstoppable. He smiled his most dangerous smile. They haven't met Earth yet. Far across the galaxy, in the Emperor's throne room on Coruscant, Palpatine listened to Vader's report with predatory interest. A ship from beyond our galaxy, the Emperor mused, his yellow eyes gleaming. Technology that operates outside the Force. Fascinating. Most fascinating. Master, they have allied with the rebellion, Vader said. They must be destroyed before. No, Lord Vader. Palpatine's smile was terrible. They must be captured. Studied. Their technology will be ours. And through them, he stared into the darkness, seeing possibilities that made even Vader uncomfortable. Through them, we will extend the Empire beyond the boundaries of this galaxy. Unlimited power. Unlimited control. Yes, my master. Find them, Lord Vader. Bring me their ship intact. Bring me their crew alive. And bring me the secrets of their impossible technology. The Force has delivered us a great gift. We must not waste it. As Vader bowed and departed, Palpatine contemplated the enormity of what had been handed to him. Another galaxy. Another realm to conquer. The dark side of the Force whispered promises of ultimate dominion. And Palpatine, as always, listened. Ord Mantell's hidden shipyard hung in the shadow of a dying moon, invisible to casual scans and protected by layers of sensor-dampening asteroids. The facility itself was a patchwork marvel, dozens of derelict freighters, abandoned mining platforms, and salvaged Imperial components welded together into something that barely qualified as a structure but somehow functioned as one of the rebellion's most valuable assets. "It's beautiful," Carter said, and she meant it. O'Neill looked at the ramshackle collection of metal and desperation. "Carter, your definition of beautiful needs serious recalibration." "Sir, look at the engineering. They've integrated at least 6 different power systems, created functional artificial gravity from salvaged components, and maintained operational security in a hostile sector for 3 years. That's not beautiful, that's miraculous." The Odyssey docked at the facility's largest berth, her sleek Asgard lines contrasting sharply with the chaotic industrial aesthetic surrounding her. Through the view screen, O'Neill watched as rebel engineers and civilian contractors scrambled to prepare for their arrival, checking pressure seals, extending gangways, hauling diagnostic equipment into position. "Colonel," the shipyard master hailed them, his voice rough with age and too many years breathing recycled air. "Name's Torrin Farr. Used to run maintenance at Fonder Imperial shipyards before I decided the Empire's credits weren't worth selling my soul. General Kraken says you've got a drive system that needs attention." "That's putting it mildly," O'Neill replied. "Our hyperdrive took catastrophic damage during dimensional transit. We need it operational, but the technology is complicated. Everything's complicated until you understand it. Permission to bring my team aboard?" O'Neill glanced at Carter, who nodded. "Granted. But Master Farr, some of our systems are classified. Major Carter will escort your people and determine what you can and can't access." "Fair enough. We'll get started immediately." Over the next 6 hours, Carter led a team of rebel engineers through the Odyssey's hyperdrive systems while O'Neill coordinated with Admiral Akbar on strategic planning. The engineers' reactions to Asgard technology ranged from awe to confusion to frustrated incomprehension. "This doesn't make sense," one engineer muttered, studying holographic schematics. "The energy flow should create feedback loops that would tear the crystals apart. How does it stabilize?" "Subspace resonance compensation," Carter explained. "The crystals are grown in zero-point energy fields, which gives them quantum properties that allow them to channel energy that would destroy conventional materials. In your terms, they exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, which is why they can interface with hyperspace without." "Major," the engineer interrupted gently. "I understood maybe one word in 5. Can you show me the practical application instead?" Carter smiled. "Sure. Watch this." She activated a diagnostic program, and the Asgard crystals pulsed with soft blue light. Energy flowed through pathways that seemed to defy three-dimensional space, creating patterns that were mesmerizing and impossible. "Okay," the engineer breathed. "I have absolutely no idea how that works, but it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Master Farr approached, studying the display with experienced eyes. "Major Carter, I've been working with hyperdrives for 40 years. I've seen Corellian systems, Mon Calamari biotech, even captured Imperial prototypes. This," he shook his head. "This is beyond anything in our galaxy. We can't repair it. We don't have the knowledge base, the tools, or the materials." Carter's shoulders sagged. She'd known it was a long shot, but hearing it confirmed was still painful. "So we're stranded." "I didn't say that." Farr pulled up different schematics. "We can't repair your hyperdrive. But maybe we can adapt it. Your ship has transporter technology, matter transmission across distance, right?" "Yes, but the range is limited to a few thousand kilometers, and it requires tremendous power for anything larger than a person." "What if we didn't transport matter? What if we transported the dimensional interface itself?" Farr's fingers danced across the holographic controls. "Your hyperdrive opens a tunnel through dimensions. Our hyperdrives access a parallel dimension for FTL travel. They're different approaches to the same problem. What if we used your Asgard transporters to create a bridge between your dimensional technology and our hyperspace?" Carter's eyes widened. A hybrid system. We wouldn't be using pure Asgard hyperdrive or pure Star Wars hyperspace, but something in between, a transporter-assisted hyperspace jump that leverages both technologies. Exactly. It would be slower than your original drive, probably less reliable, and it might only work in this galaxy. But it would give you FTL capability. How long would it take to build? Far considered. With my full team? 3 weeks. Maybe 4. 3 weeks. They'd been in this galaxy for less than a week, and already the Empire was hunting them across multiple sectors. 3 more weeks of running, hiding, and hoping Vader didn't find them before they could escape. Do it, Carter said. I'll work with your team full-time. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen. While Carter coordinated engineering efforts, O'Neill met with Admiral Akbar and General Kraken in the shipyard's makeshift command center, a converted cargo bay with tactical displays cobbled together from salvaged Imperial equipment. The Empire has intensified patrols in 6 sectors, Akbar reported, highlighting areas on the holographic map. They're conducting systematic sweeps, interrogating smugglers, and offering substantial bounties for information about your ship. Vader is personally overseeing the search. He really doesn't like being embarrassed, O'Neill observed. Lord Vader does not tolerate failure, in others or himself, Kraken replied. He'll pursue you until he either captures your ship or destroys it. And the Emperor is pushing him. Imperial intelligence intercepted a transmission, Palpatine wants your technology intact. Then we need to make sure he doesn't get it. O'Neill studied the map. Admiral, what's our strategic position? If we're going to fight alongside the Alliance, I need to understand your capabilities and limitations. Akbar manipulated the display, showing fleet deployments. The Alliance currently operates 4 capital ships capable of engaging Star Destroyers, Home 1, and 3 Mon Calamari cruisers. We have approximately 60 corvettes and frigates for escort and patrol duties, and 300 starfighters distributed across multiple cells. Total personnel, approximately 20,000, including ground forces. And the Empire? 25,000 Star Destroyers. Millions of TIE fighters. Ground forces numbering in the billions. Industrial capacity that produces a new Star Destroyer every 6 days. Akbar's large eyes met O'Neill's. We are outnumbered approximately 5,000 to 1. The silence was crushing. Daniel, who'd been quietly observing, spoke up. Admiral, those numbers are, how have you survived this long? Mobility, deception, and the Empire's arrogance, Akbar replied. They expect us to fight pitched battles. We don't. We hit supply convoys, sabotage facilities, and disappear before they can respond. We can't win through military victory. We win by making occupation too costly, by inspiring systems to resist, by proving the Empire isn't invincible. Guerrilla warfare, O'Neill said, recognizing the strategy. Hit and run. Make them chase ghosts. Precisely. And your ship, Colonel, changes our calculus. The Odyssey can engage multiple Star Destroyers simultaneously and survive. That's not just a tactical advantage, it's a strategic game changer. With proper coordination, we could. No, O'Neill's voice was firm. Admiral, I respect what you're trying to do, but we're not a magic bullet. We're one ship. If you start relying on us to win your battles, you'll get dependent, and the moment we're not available, your entire strategy collapses. TLC nodded approval. O'Neill speaks wisdom. The Jaffa rebellion succeeded not because of one powerful ally, but because Jaffa learned to fight for themselves. You must do the same. Akbar considered this, then dipped his head slightly. You're right. We cannot become dependent on external assets, no matter how powerful. But surely there are operations where your capabilities could provide decisive advantage without creating dependency. Such as? O'Neill asked. Kraken pulled up a new display. This is Lothal, a mid-rim agricultural world recently seized by the Empire. They're strip mining the planet for resources and using the local population as slave labor. The brutality has sparked resistance, but the Imperial garrison is too strong for local rebels to handle. If we could liberate Lothal, it would send a message that the Empire can be defeated, even in their controlled territories. What's the garrison strength? 2 Star Destroyers in orbit, ground forces of approximately 10,000, fortified Imperial complex in the capital. Standard occupation force. O'Neill studied the tactical data. 2 Star Destroyers we can handle. But what about the ground component? The Odyssey isn't a ground assault platform. We've got 200 Marines, maximum, not enough to take a fortified position against 10,000 defenders. We wouldn't be asking you to, Akbar replied. We have ground forces, 3 battalions that could be deployed to Lothal within a week. Your role would be space superiority and orbital support. Draw the Star Destroyers into engagement, eliminate them or drive them off, then provide fire support for our ground troops. It was reasonable. Tactically sound. And it would commit them to direct action against the Empire in a way that couldn't be undone. Let me talk to my crew, O'Neill said. This is a decision we make together. That night, or what passed for night on a shipyard that operated around the clock, O'Neill gathered SG-1 in the Odyssey's mess hall. They sat around a table with cold coffee and the weight of impossible choices. So, O'Neill began. The Alliance wants us to help liberate a planet. 2 Star Destroyers, 10,000 Imperial troops, civilian population being used as slave labor. Classic rescue mission with a side of regime change. We have undertaken similar missions on Earth and in our own galaxy, TLC observed. Freeing enslaved populations from gold occupation was a primary objective of the Jaffa Rebellion. I see no moral distinction here. Except we're in someone else's galaxy fighting someone else's war, Daniel countered. Yes, the Empire is evil, I'm not arguing that. But Jack, every battle we fight here is one more step away from finding a way home. We've been here less than a week and we're already planning military operations. Where does it end? Carter set down her coffee. Daniel's right to be concerned, but we also need to face reality. Our hyperdrive repair is going to take 3 to 4 weeks minimum, and that's only if Master Far's hybrid system actually works. During that time, we need somewhere safe to operate. The Alliance provides that safety. If we want their protection, we need to contribute. Is it contribution or payment? Daniel pressed. Are we helping because it's right, or because we need something from them? Does it matter? O'Neill replied. End result is the same, we help free people from slavery. It matters if it affects our judgment, Daniel said quietly. Jack, I spent years studying cultures that got involved in other people's conflicts for pragmatic reasons and ended up causing more harm than good. We need to be certain this is the right thing to do, not just the convenient thing. I watched that footage from Geonosis, Carter said, her voice hard. 200,000 civilians murdered because 6 rebels were hiding there. If we have the power to stop the Empire from doing that again, don't we have a responsibility to try? And if we fail? Daniel challenged. If we draw Imperial attention to Lothal and make things worse? If Palpatine decides to make an example by exterminating the entire population? The question hung in the air. TLC broke the silence. Daniel Jackson, there are no certainties in warfare. The Jaffa Rebellion risked catastrophic failure countless times. Many Jaffa died in the struggle for freedom. But we fought anyway, because the alternative, eternal slavery under false gods, was unacceptable. The people of Lothal face similar choice. We can help them fight, or we can abandon them to the Empire's mercy. I know which choice honors the warrior I strive to be. O'Neill looked at each of his team members. They'd been through hell together, faced gods and monsters, prevented apocalypses, saved Earth more times than anyone would ever know. They'd earned the right to disagree, to question, to push back. All right, let's break this down, he said. Carter, what's our tactical assessment? Can we actually win this? Yes, sir. 2 Star Destroyers against the Odyssey is manageable, especially if we use the hybrid tactics we developed during the escape from Vader. F-302s engage TIE fighters, we disable the Star Destroyers with plasma beams, then provide orbital fire support for ground forces. It's risky, but well within our capabilities. TLC, from a strategic perspective, does this operation make sense? It does. Success would demonstrate Alliance capability, inspire further resistance, and establish our credibility as effective allies. Failure would be costly but not catastrophic, we could withdraw and reassess. Daniel, moral perspective. Are we making things better or worse? Daniel took a long moment before answering. I think we're already involved whether we like it or not. The moment we defended the rebel base from Vader, we became participants in this war. The question isn't whether to intervene, we've already intervened. The question is whether we intervene effectively or incompetently. He met O'Neill's eyes. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. Full commitment, proper planning, and genuine effort to minimize civilian casualties. O'Neill nodded slowly. Okay. Here's how we proceed. We tell Akbar yes, but on our terms. We plan this operation carefully, no rushing, no shortcuts. We coordinate with local resistance on Lothal so we understand the population's needs. We establish clear rules of engagement that prioritize civilian safety. And we make sure the Alliance understands that this is a partnership, not us being their hired guns. Agreed, Carter said. Indeed, TLC rumbled. Daniel nodded. All right. But Jack, promise me something. Promise me we don't lose sight of who we are. We're not conquerors. We're not revolutionaries. We're people trying to do the right thing in impossible circumstances. I promise, O'Neill replied. We stay true to Earth's values. We protect the innocent, fight the oppressors, and try like hell to get home. Nothing more, nothing less. They sat together in the quiet of the mess hall, 4 people from another galaxy about to change the course of a war they never asked to join. Outside, Master Far's engineering teams worked through the night, welding Asgard technology to Star Wars hyperspace theory, building something that had never existed before. And across the galaxy, in the depths of the Executor, Darth Vader meditated in his hyperbaric chamber. He could feel them out there, a void in the Force, a blank space where life existed but the Force did not touch. It was wrong. Unnatural. Disturbing. But it was also trackable. The Force might not touch them, but it touched everything around them. The rebels they'd allied with. The shipyards they visited. The space they moved through. Vader reached out with the Force, following the disturbances, tracking the ripples they left in the cosmic fabric. There. Ord Mantell. Hidden, but not hidden enough. Navigator, Vader commanded, his breathing filling the chamber. Set course for the Ord Mantell system. Maximum speed. Inform the fleet we have located our prey. The hunt was nearly over. And this time, there would be no escape. The alarm klaxons shattered the night cycle with brutal efficiency. O'Neill was on the bridge in seconds, still pulling on his jacket as status reports flooded in from every station. Carter arrived moments later, TLC and Daniel close behind, all of them moving with the practiced urgency of a team that had responded to countless emergencies. Report. O'Neill snapped. Sir, multiple hyperspace signatures detected at the system's edge, Tactical announced, his voice tight with tension. Imperial fleet composition, 1 Super Star Destroyer, profile matches the Executor, and 8 regular Star Destroyers. They're advancing directly toward the shipyard's position. How the hell did they find us? O'Neill demanded. Unknown, sir. But they're not scanning, they're moving with purpose. They know exactly where we are. On the view screen, the Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace like a wall of death. The Executor dominated the formation, its massive bulk flanked by Star Destroyers in perfect tactical deployment. TIE fighter squadrons were already launching, their distinctive silhouettes swarming across the void. "Vader," Carter said quietly. "He tracked us somehow." O'Neill hit the ship-wide comm, "All hands, battle stations. Engineering, I need engines online now. Weapons, prep everything we've got. We're about to have company." The communications console erupted with transmissions from the shipyard. "Evacuate immediately, repeat, all non-essential personnel to escape vessels. Imperial fleet detected, defensive platforms arming." Master Farr's voice cut through the chaos. "Colonel O'Neill, you need to get out of here now. The hyperdrive hybrid isn't complete, another 2 days and we'd have had it, but right now your FTL is still offline." "Understood. Master Farr, evacuate your people. We'll buy you time." "Colonel, they're not here for the shipyard. They're here for you. If you stay, then we'll fight." O'Neill switched channels. "Admiral Akbar, what assets do we have in system?" Akbar's voice came through, strained but controlled. "Home 1 is 3 hours away, along with our escort fleet. We're jumping immediately, but Colonel, you'll be alone until we arrive. Can you hold that long?" O'Neill looked at his tactical display. 9 Imperial capital ships versus 1 Earth vessel with no hyperdrive, limited ammunition, and 300 TIE fighters closing fast. "We'll find out." O'Neill out. The first turbolaser salvo lit up space like a green sunrise. Hundreds of bolts converged on the shipyard, overwhelming its makeshift shields in seconds. The defensive platforms returned fire with salvaged Imperial weapons, but they were designed to deter pirates, not capital ships. The Star Destroyers ignored them, methodically reducing the shipyard to debris with ruthless efficiency. "Sir, the shipyard is breaking apart," Tactical reported. "Reading multiple hull breaches, structural collapse in progress. Escape pods are launching, but, Colonel, the Executor is targeting the pods." O'Neill's blood ran cold. "What?" On the view screen, they watched as the Super Star Destroyers' point defense systems opened fire on the fleeing escape pods. Civilian contractors, engineers, shipyard workers, all vaporized in brilliant flashes. "No survivors," Vader had ordered. "No witnesses." "Those bastards," Daniel breathed. O'Neill's hands clenched into fists. "Helm, get us between the Executor and those pods. Shields to maximum. We're covering their evacuation." "Sir, that will put us directly in their firing line." "I know what it means." "Do it." The Odyssey's engines roared to life, pushing the ship into the gap between the fleeing civilians and the Imperial fleet. Asgard shields flared as turbolaser fire hammered their defenses, but the Earth vessel held position, her bulk-absorbing punishment meant for the defenseless escape pods. "Shields at 70% and holding," Carter reported. "But sir, we can't maintain this position indefinitely. They're concentrating fire." "How many pods still need to clear?" 43. At current escape velocity, they need another 2 minutes to reach safe jump distance. 2 minutes. An eternity under sustained bombardment. Then we give them 2 minutes. TLC, return fire. Target the closest Star Destroyers. Make them think about defense instead of offense. The Asgard plasma beams lanced out, striking 2 Star Destroyers simultaneously. Their shields flared and buckled under the assault, forcing both ships to divert power to defensive systems and break off their attack runs. But 6 more remained, and the Executor hadn't even begun to engage. F-302 Squadron, this is Odyssey Actual, O'Neill transmitted. Launch immediately. Run interference on those TIE fighters. Keep them off our back. Copy that, Colonel. Fox Squadron launching. 12 F-302s streaked from Odyssey's hangar, their Asgard plasma cannon spitting fire at the TIE swarm. The Imperial fighters scattered, their superior numbers offset by the F-302's technological advantage. But for every TIE destroyed, 2 more took its place. "Colonel, escape pods have reached minimum safe distance," Tactical reported. "They're jumping to hyperspace now." On the view screen, the escape pods vanished into the blue-white tunnel of hyperspace, carrying the survivors to safety. "Good," O'Neill said. "Now get us the hell out of here. Full power to engines, evasive course toward the system's edge. Put as much distance between us and Vader as possible." The Odyssey banked hard, her superior maneuverability allowing her to weave between asteroid debris as she accelerated away from the Imperial fleet. But the Star Destroyers adjusted their pursuit with professional efficiency, maintaining formation while coordinating fire. "Sir, the Executor is matching our course," Carter warned. "And it's accelerating. Whatever drives that thing has, they're faster than they should be for something that size." O'Neill gritted his teeth. "Of course it is. Because nothing about this situation could be easy." "O'Neill, I am detecting an anomaly," TLC reported. "The Executor is generating the same focused energy signature we observed during our previous encounter. Darth Vader is preparing to use the Force against us. Carter, can we counter it?" "Sir, I've been working on a theory. The Force seems to interact with mass and energy through some kind of quantum field manipulation. If I modulate our shields to create interference patterns in local spacetime." "English, Major. I'm going to try to jam his Force powers with our shields. No idea if it'll work." "Do it." Carter's fingers flew across her console, adjusting shield harmonics in real time. The Asgard shields began pulsing at irregular frequencies, creating ripples in the fabric of space around the Odyssey. On the Executor, Vader reached out with the Force, and recoiled. The sensation was like touching static electricity. The invisible hand he'd been preparing to use against the alien ship met resistance, interference, wrongness. They were deliberately disrupting the Force itself. Impossible. And yet, happening. "Most impressive," Vader murmured. "They learn quickly." "Lord Vader," the Executor's captain ventured carefully. "Should we increase bombardment intensity?" "No. They have proven they can withstand our weapons. Direct assault will only delay the inevitable capture." Vader studied the tactical display. "Deploy gravity well projectors. Prevent them from escaping the system. Then execute Protocol 7. The captain paled slightly. "My lord, Protocol 7 will destroy." "Execute it." "Yes, Lord Vader." On the Odyssey, Tactical suddenly shouted a warning. "Sir, massive gravity distortions forming at the system's edge. The Imperial fleet is deploying some kind of interdiction field, it's creating artificial gravity wells that prevent hyperspace jumps. They're boxing us in," O'Neill realized. "Carter, can we still use your hybrid hyperdrive system?" "Not yet, sir. We need another 48 hours minimum before it's operational. Then we're trapped." Daniel moved closer to the tactical display. "Jack, what's Protocol 7? As if in answer, the Star Destroyers broke off their pursuit and assumed new positions, surrounding the Odyssey at maximum weapons range, creating a perfect sphere of firepower with no gaps. "They're not trying to destroy us anymore," Carter observed. "They're hurting us." "Into what?" O'Neill demanded. The answer came in the form of a new contact dropping out of hyperspace. It was unlike anything they'd seen in this galaxy, a massive spherical station, easily 200 kilometers in diameter, bristling with weapons and shielded with energy fields so powerful they registered on Odyssey's sensors from across the system. "What the hell is that?" O'Neill breathed. "Unknown, sir. But it's generating power signatures equivalent to a dozen Star Destroyers. And Colonel," Tactical's voice dropped. "It's charging a weapon. Something big." On the view screen, a section of the battle station's surface began glowing with gathering energy. Green light built to blinding intensity, coalescing into a focused beam. Evasive! O'Neill shouted. But the beam wasn't aimed at Odyssey. It struck the dying shipyard, what remained of it after the initial bombardment, and simply erased it. The entire structure, millions of tons of metal and equipment, vaporized in an instant. The explosion created a shockwave that rattled Odyssey's shields even at distance. They just destroyed their own prize, Daniel said, stunned. All that salvage, all that technology, they obliterated it. To make a point, TLC said grimly. Vader is demonstrating what will happen if we do not surrender. The communications console activated without input, Vader forcing his transmission through their systems with sheer power. The Dark Lord's image filled the view screen. Colonel O'Neill, Vader intoned, his mechanical breathing filling the bridge like a death knell. You have fought admirably. Your technology is impressive, your tactics sound, your crew competent. But you are surrounded, outgunned, and without means of escape. The gravity wells prevent hyperspace jumps. The interdiction station prevents sublight escape. And if you attempt to break through our formation, he gestured to the station. You have seen what occurs. O'Neill stood, meeting those dark lenses with defiance. So what, you're just going to blow us up if we don't surrender? Real inspiring, Vader. You must be great at motivational speeches. I will do what is necessary. Vader's voice was implacable. Your ship will be captured intact. Your crew will be taken prisoner. And your technology will be analyzed and replicated for Imperial use. This is inevitable, Colonel. The only question is how many of your people die before you accept it. Here's a counteroffer, O'Neill shot back. You let us leave, we promise not to tell everyone that the Empire's big scary enforcer had to run home and get his friends because one ship scared him. For a long moment, Vader was silent. When he spoke, there was something almost like respect in his mechanical voice. You do not fear death. Admirable. But are you willing to watch your crew die for your pride? And there it was, the real threat. Not O'Neill's life, but the lives of everyone aboard Odyssey. 200 people who'd followed him across a dimensional barrier, who trusted him to get them home. Carter touched his arm gently. Sir. O'Neill looked at his crew. Carter, ready to fight to the last. TLC, calm in the face of impossible odds. Daniel, searching desperately for a diplomatic solution. And beyond the bridge, 200 souls who deserved better than to die in someone else's war. Give me options, he said quietly. Sir, we could try to fight our way through the Imperial formation, Tactical suggested. Focus all firepower on one Star Destroyer, punch a hole, and run. They'd destroy us before we cleared their weapons range, Carter countered. And even if we somehow survived, we have no hyperdrive. They'd hunt us down within hours. We could negotiate, Daniel offered. Ask for terms. Maybe Vader would be willing to. Vader doesn't negotiate, O'Neill interrupted. He conquers. And the moment we're in Imperial hands, they'll tear this ship apart bolt by bolt to learn how it works. Then we fight, TLC said simply. We may not survive, but we will not surrender Earth's technology to tyrants. We have faced death before with honor. We can do so again. O'Neill looked at each of them, his family, his team, his responsibility. Colonel, Vader's voice continued, you have 1 minute to decide. Surrender, or watch your crew die. The countdown began. And in that moment, watching the Imperial fleet tighten its noose, O'Neill made a decision that would change everything. Carter, he said quietly, remember what Master Farr said about your hybrid hyperdrive design? That it used transporters to bridge dimensional gaps. Yes, but sir, it's not operational. We'd need 2 more days. What if we didn't use it for the whole ship? O'Neill's mind raced. What if we used it for just the crew? Carter's eyes widened. You want to beam everyone off the ship using a partially complete hyperdrive system to create a hyperspace transport. Sir, that's insane. The targeting would be impossible, the power requirements astronomical, and we'd have no idea where we'd end up. But would it work? Maybe. If we sacrificed the ship's entire power reserves, overloaded the Asgard reactors, and got incredibly lucky, we might be able to transport the crew to somewhere. Somewhere in hyperspace, somewhere in real space, I can't predict. But Jack, the Odyssey would be left dead in space. Powerless. Defenseless. And we'd be scattered across who knows where with no ship, no resources, no way to regroup. But alive, O'Neill said. And not in Imperial hands. That's 2 victories right there. O'Neill, TLC interjected, if we abandon the Odyssey, the Empire will claim it. They will study it. Eventually, they will learn to replicate its systems. You would be giving them exactly what they seek. Not if we set the self-destruct. O'Neill's voice was hard. We evacuate the crew via emergency hyperspace transport, rig the reactors to overload, and blow the Odyssey to atoms before Vader can board. The Empire gets nothing but scrap. Daniel stared at him. Jack, you can't be serious. That ship is Earth's most advanced vessel. The Asgard gave us that technology in good faith. We can't let it fall into Imperial hands, O'Neill interrupted. Daniel, if Palpatine gets his hands on Asgard technology, he'll reverse engineer it. Eventually, he'll build his own version. And then what? Then he's got an unstoppable fleet that could punch through any defense in our galaxy. You want to explain to Earth how we lost the technological war because we were too proud to destroy one ship? The brutal logic was undeniable. 30 seconds, Vader's voice intoned. Carter, can you do it? Can you get everyone off this ship using the incomplete hybrid system? She looked at her console, running calculations at impossible speed. It's a 1 in 10 chance, sir. Maybe less. Most likely outcome is we all die in transport. Second most likely is we materialize inside a star. Third most likely. I get it. Long odds. We've beaten longer. Not like this, Jack, Daniel said desperately. This is betting 200 lives on a theory. It's betting 200 lives on Major Carter, O'Neill corrected. And I'd take those odds against anything. Carter met his eyes. Sir, if I do this, if I try, there's no going back. The ship will be lost. Then we'd better make sure we survive so we can steal another one. O'Neill hit the ship-wide comm, all hands, this is the Colonel. Abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship. All personnel to transporter stations immediately. We're evacuating via emergency protocol. You have 90 seconds to reach your designated stations. Move. Throughout the Odyssey, 200 people dropped what they were doing and ran. Marines, engineers, pilots, medical staff, all converging on the ship's 6 transporter rooms with disciplined urgency. Carter, rig the self-destruct, O'Neill ordered. 5-minute delay after we transport. That gives us time to clear the blast radius. Understood. Her fingers flew across the console, overriding safeties and initiating reactor cascade protocols. Self-destruct armed. Detonation in 5 minutes upon my command. TLC, coordinate evacuation. Make sure everyone makes it to a transporter. Already done. All personnel accounted for. We are ready. Daniel, I need you to record a message. Something we can transmit to the Alliance explaining what happened. Daniel nodded, moving to the communications station. His voice was steady as he recorded, "This is Dr. Daniel Jackson of the USS Odyssey. If you're receiving this, it means we've evacuated the ship to prevent Imperial capture. We don't know where we'll end up, but we'll try to make contact. Tell Earth," his voice caught. "Tell Earth we did our duty. O'Neill out." 10 seconds, Vader announced, oblivious to what was happening aboard the alien ship. O'Neill looked at his bridge crew one last time. Whatever happens, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was ours, TLC replied. Carter, do it. Initiating emergency hyperspace transport. Overloading reactors. Engaging in 3, 2, 1. The universe turned inside out. Every molecule in O'Neill's body screamed as the Asgard transporters, never designed for this, never meant to interface with hyperspace, operating on theory and desperate hope, tore him apart and flung him into the dimensional void. For one eternal instant, he existed everywhere and nowhere. Then reality slammed back into focus. O'Neill materialized on cold metal plating, gasping for air. Around him, other crew members were appearing in flashes of light, some conscious, some unconscious, all alive. They were in a hangar. A rebel hangar. Home 1. Carter's desperate transport had locked onto the rebel flagship's coordinates and thrown them across space. Status. O'Neill managed to croak. A medical officer rushed over, helping him sit up. Sir, crew manifest is coming in now. We're reading, 197 souls. Everyone made it. Everyone survived. 3 missing. O'Neill's heart clenched. Who didn't make it? Engineering team on deck 7, sir. They didn't reach the transporter in time. The officer didn't finish. 3 people. 3 souls who trusted him, who'd followed his orders, who died because they ran out of time. O'Neill closed his eyes. Across the galaxy, the Odyssey's self-destruct reached critical mass. Darth Vader, standing in his command center, sensed it 1 second before it happened. All ships, emergency reverse thrust. The USS Odyssey exploded with the fury of 3 overloading Naquadah reactors. The blast was equivalent to a small supernova, a sphere of pure energy that expanded at relativistic speeds, consuming everything in its path. The interdiction station, too close to escape, was vaporized instantly. 2 Star Destroyers caught on the blast's edge were torn apart, their shields meaningless against such power. The Executor survived, but barely, its shields reduced to nothing, hull plating scorched, systems offline across half the ship. And when the light faded, there was nothing left of the Odyssey but expanding debris and fading radiation. Vader stared at the empty space where his prize had been. Self-destruct, he said quietly. They chose death over capture. They destroyed themselves rather than allow us to claim their technology. The captain, shaken, stepped forward. Lord Vader, we've lost the interdiction station and 2 Star Destroyers. Should we? Scan the debris field, Vader ordered. Find me evidence of their remains. Proof they died aboard that ship. The scanning took hours. Finally, the sensor officer reported, Lord Vader, we're finding residual transporter signatures throughout the debris. They beamed off the ship before it exploded. The crew escaped. Where? Unknown, my lord. The transport signatures are unlike anything in our database. They could be anywhere in the galaxy. Vader's mechanical breathing was the only sound on the bridge. The Emperor will not be pleased, he finally said. We had them. And they escaped through death itself. He turned to his officers. Intensify the search. They survived somehow, which means they are still out there. Find them. Bring them to me. Or do not bother returning. On Home 1, O'Neill sat in the hangar with his crew scattered around him, all of them processing what had just happened. They'd lost the Odyssey. Lost Earth's most advanced ship. Lost 3 crew members. But they'd survived. And they'd kept Asgard technology out of Imperial hands. Senator Organa approached carefully. Colonel O'Neill. I'm sorry. I know what that ship meant to you. O'Neill looked up at her, exhaustion and grief warring in his expression. Senator, you asked if we were committed to fighting the Empire. You've got your answer. We just gave up our only way home to keep our technology from falling into Palpatine's hands. He stood slowly. So yeah. We're all in now. No ship, no exit strategy, no way back. Just us, your rebellion, and one hell of a grudge against an empire. Leia extended her hand. Then welcome to the Rebel Alliance, Colonel. For real this time. O'Neill shook it. Let's go kill an empire. 3 weeks after the loss of the Odyssey, O'Neill stood in Home One's tactical planning room, staring at holographic projections of Lothal with an intensity that made junior officers uncomfortable. The room was packed. Admiral Akbar, Senator Organa, General Kraken, and the surviving command staff of the Odyssey's 200 crew. They'd been integrated into the Alliance fleet structure, but everyone knew they weren't just another rebel cell. They were something else, highly trained military specialists from another galaxy, armed with knowledge of technologies and tactics the Empire had never encountered. The Lothal operation has been moved up, Akbar announced, manipulating the holographic display. Imperial intelligence indicates they're preparing to execute mass deportations, 20,000 civilians being relocated to labor camps in the core. If we don't act within 72 hours, those people will be lost. O'Neill studied the updated tactical information. What's changed since our original assessment? Imperial garrison has been reinforced, Kraken replied grimly. 3 Star Destroyers now, up from 2. Ground forces increased to 15,000. They're fortifying the capital and establishing artillery positions around population centers. They know we're coming, Carter observed. She'd adapted to life aboard Home One with characteristic efficiency, serving as the Alliance's technical advisor and coordinating what remained of Earth's personnel. They're using Lothal as bait. Agreed, Akbar said. But the alternative is abandoning 20,000 civilians to slavery. The Alliance cannot, will not, make that choice. O'Neill nodded slowly. He'd spent the past 3 weeks learning everything he could about the Rebel Alliance, its capabilities, its limitations, and most importantly, its people. These weren't terrorists or fanatics. They were citizens who'd watched their democracy die and chosen to fight rather than submit. They reminded him of the American Revolution, of resistance movements throughout Earth's history. All right, he said. Then we go. But we do it smart. Admiral, what assets can we deploy? Home 1 and 2 escort frigates for space superiority. 6 squadrons of starfighters, X-wings and A-wings. 3 battalions of ground troops, approximately 1,500 soldiers total. And, Akbar gestured to O'Neill. Your Marines and remaining F-302s. The Odyssey's crew had salvaged what they could before abandoning ship, primarily their personal weapons, body armor, and 6 F-302 fighters that had been in the hangar during the evacuation. It wasn't much compared to what they'd lost, but it was something. 1,500 troops against 15,000, Daniel said quietly. He'd been uncharacteristically subdued since the Odyssey's destruction, processing the reality that they might never see Earth again. Those are terrible odds. Which is why we won't fight them head-on, O'Neill replied. He pulled up tactical overlays showing Lothal's capital city. The Imperials are expecting a conventional assault, orbital bombardment followed by ground invasion. We're going to give them something different. He highlighted several locations across the city. These are Imperial command centers, communication hubs, and garrison headquarters. We hit them simultaneously with surgical strikes, small teams using guerrilla tactics. F-302s provide close air support. We disable their command structure, cut their communications, and turn their numerical advantage into a liability. Without centralized coordination, 15,000 soldiers become 15,000 confused individuals, TLC added, nodding approval. We isolate them into manageable groups and eliminate them systematically. What about the Star Destroyers? Leia asked. Home 1 can engage 1, maybe 2, but 3 simultaneously. That's where the F-302s earn their keep, Carter interjected. Senator, our fighters are equipped with Asgard plasma weapons and enhanced shields. 6 F-302s operating in coordinated attack patterns can cripple a Star Destroyer's critical systems, shield generators, sensor arrays, weapon batteries. We don't need to destroy them, just disable them long enough for Home 1 to even the odds. Akbar studied the tactical projections with his large, calculating eyes. This is an extremely complex operation requiring precise coordination across multiple theaters. If any element fails, then we adapt, O'Neill said firmly. Admiral, I've been running missions like this for 20 years. Complex ops are what SG-1 does best. Trust me. I do trust you, Colonel. But the risk is worth it. Leia's voice carried absolute conviction. Admiral, every day we hesitate is another day the Empire tightens its grip. We have to show the galaxy that resistance is possible, that the Empire can be defeated. Lothal is our chance to do that. The room fell silent as Akbar considered. Finally, he dipped his head in acquiescence. Very well. We proceed with Colonel O'Neill's plan. All commanders, prepare your forces. We launch in 18 hours. Lothal hung in the void like a jewel, green continents, blue oceans, white clouds swirling in atmospheric patterns that reminded O'Neill painfully of Earth. And orbiting above it, 3 Imperial Star Destroyers maintained blockade positions with ruthless efficiency. All fighters, this is Home 1 actual, Akbar transmitted. Execute Operation Hammer. Show them what freedom looks like. The rebel fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Home 1 led the assault, her organic hull gleaming under the system sun, escorted by 2 CR-90 corvettes whose engines burned brilliant blue. Behind them, 72 starfighters formed into attack squadrons, X-wings with their distinctive S-foils locked in attack position, A-wing interceptors built for speed and precision, and 6 F-302s that looked sleek and predatory among their Star Wars counterparts. The Imperial fleet reacted immediately, Star Destroyers breaking formation to engage while TIE fighters launched in swarms. Fox Squadron, this is O'Neill, the Colonel transmitted from the lead F-302. He'd insisted on flying combat missions personally, partly because he was qualified, partly because watching from a command center while his people fought would have driven him insane. Target priority is the lead Star Destroyer's shield generators. Alpha pattern, weapons free. Copy that, Colonel, his wingmen responded. The remaining 5 F-302s formed up around him, their pilots, survivors from Odyssey's original squadron, grimly determined to prove Earth's superiority. They dove toward the closest Star Destroyer with suicidal aggression. TIE fighters intercepted immediately, green laser fire crisscrossing space. But the F-302s were faster, more maneuverable, and shielded. They wove through the TIE swarm like sharks through fish, Asgard plasma cannons vaporizing Imperial fighters with single shots. Fox 2, Splash 3, one pilot reported. These TIEs are slower than I remember. Stay focused, O'Neill commanded. Target lock on shield generators, now. 6 F-302s fired simultaneously. Asgard plasma beams, blue-white lances of concentrated energy, struck the Star Destroyer's port shield generator array with surgical precision. The generators overloaded spectacularly, creating a cascade failure that dropped shields across a quarter of the massive ship's hull. Home 1, you've got an opening, O'Neill transmitted. Acknowledged, Akbar replied calmly. All forward batteries, concentrate fire on exposed section. Home 1's turbolaser batteries unleashed hell. The Mon Calamari cruiser's organic weapons systems fired with devastating accuracy, exploiting the gap in the Star Destroyer's defenses. Armor plating vaporized, internal decks explosive decompressed, secondary systems failed across multiple sections. The Star Destroyer listed badly, trailing atmosphere and debris. 1 down, 2 to go, Carter reported from her station aboard Home 1. Colonel, the other 2 Star Destroyers are converging on your position. You've got approximately 200 TIE fighters inbound. Yeah, I see them. O'Neill's tactical display was a nightmare of red hostile contacts. Fox Squadron, break by pairs. We're outnumbered 40-1, so let's not make it easy for them. Stay mobile, conserve ammunition, and for God's sake don't get cocky. The F-302s scattered, each pair taking evasive maneuvers through the orbital battle. Around them, X-Wings and A-Wings engaged the TIE swarm with desperate courage, their proton torpedoes and laser cannons picking off Imperial fighters in brutal close-quarters combat. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos. And below, on Lothal's surface, the real battle was beginning. TLC crouched in the shadows of an industrial district, his staff weapon, salvaged from years ago and maintained with meticulous care, held ready. Around him, 20 rebel commandos and a dozen of Odyssey's Marines waited in disciplined silence. Target is 200 meters ahead, the rebel lieutenant whispered, studying a tactical datapad. Imperial Garrison Headquarters. Estimated 300 troops inside, plus command staff and communications equipment. We do not have the numbers for direct assault, TLC observed. We must be clever. One of the Marines, Sergeant Harriman, a veteran who'd survived more gate missions than most, grinned fiercely. Sir, we've got enough C4 to level the building. Why not just blow it and move on? Because there are civilian structures adjacent, TLC replied firmly. We are liberators, not destroyers. We will infiltrate, eliminate command staff, and seize communications equipment intact. Minimal collateral damage. The plan was insane, 30 soldiers attacking a fortified position held by 10 times their number. But TLC had done insane things before. Move. They advanced through the industrial district like shadows, using Earth's infiltration tactics combined with knowledge of Imperial sensor blind spots that rebel intelligence had provided. 2 Marine snipers positioned themselves in overlooking buildings, their P-90s equipped with suppressors. The rest divided into 3 teams, each approaching the garrison from different vectors. TLC led the first team directly to the main entrance. 2 Imperial stormtroopers stood guard, their white armor gleaming under artificial lights. They never saw TLC coming. His staff weapon fired once, a golden bolt of energy that dropped both stormtroopers before they could raise alarm. The team dragged the bodies inside, sealed the door, and moved deeper into the complex. Contact front. A stormtrooper rounded a corner, raising his blaster rifle. Sergeant Harriman put 3 rounds through the trooper's helmet with practiced precision. The suppressed P-90 made barely more noise than a cough. They moved faster now, knowing time was limited. TLC led them through corridors that smelled of recycled air and military discipline, following the building's layout provided by local resistance. The command center was on the 3rd floor. TLC planted explosive charges on the stairwell ceiling, rigged to blow upward, loud enough to alert the garrison, destructive enough to block reinforcements from upper floors. Breaching, Harriman announced, placing a shaped charge on the command center door. The explosion was precisely calibrated, enough to blow the door, not enough to harm anyone beyond it. TLC and his team stormed through the smoke with overwhelming violence. Imperial officers reached for weapons. Marines and rebels fired with brutal efficiency. Bodies dropped, consoles sparked, alarms shrieked. In 15 seconds, it was over. TLC moved to the communications console, accessing Imperial military channels with codes that rebel intelligence had painstakingly acquired. This is Garrison Command to all Imperial units. Priority alert, rebel forces have infiltrated multiple sectors. All troops converge on coordinates 447 to 229. Repeat, all troops converge on coordinates 447 to 229. The coordinates were for an empty warehouse 3 kilometers away. Throughout the city, Imperial squads received the order and immediately redeployed, abandoning their positions to respond to the Phantom threat. Phase 1 complete, TLC transmitted to Home 1. Imperial command structure is disrupted. Proceeding to Phase 2. In orbit, O'Neill's F-302 screamed through a debris field created by destroyed TIE fighters, his shields flaring as near misses from turbolaser fire hammered his defenses. "Fox leader, this is Fox 4, one of his pilots transmitted urgently. I've got 3 ties on my 6, I can't shake them." Braking to assist. O'Neill yanked his stick hard left, inverting his fighter and diving toward Fox 4's position. The pursuing ties saw him coming and tried to scatter, but they were too slow. His plasma cannon spoke twice. 2 ties exploded. The third broke off, fleeing toward the safety of its Star Destroyer. "Thanks, Colonel," Fox 4 gasped. "That was close. Stay sharp. We're not done yet." O'Neill checked his tactical display. The orbital battle was turning in their favor, one Star Destroyer crippled, another heavily damaged, the third maintaining distance while launching wave after wave of fighters. But the TIE numbers were telling. Even with superior technology, the F-302s and Rebel fighters couldn't sustain this pace indefinitely. Home 1, status. O'Neill transmitted. "Star Destroyer 2 is withdrawing," Akbar reported. "They're retreating to high orbit. Star Destroyer 3 is maintaining defensive posture. I believe they're waiting for reinforcements." "Then we don't give them time to wait. Fox Squadron, with me. We're taking out the third destroyer before it can call for help." 6 F-302s formed up and accelerated toward the remaining functional Star Destroyer. The massive Imperial vessels saw them coming and concentrated all-point defense fire on the approaching threat. Space became a lattice of green death. "Evasive!" O'Neill shouted unnecessarily, his pilots were already braking, scattering, making themselves impossible targets. But the sheer volume of fire was overwhelming. Warning klaxons shrieked as his shields dropped to 50%, 40, 30. "Fox 3 is hit." The transmission cut off mid-sentence. O'Neill's screen showed Fox 3's F-302 spiraling out of control, shields collapsed, hull breached. The pilot ejected seconds before the fighter exploded, his emergency beacon activating as he tumbled through space in his pressure suit. 4 F-302s left. "Fox Squadron, target the bridge," O'Neill commanded. "Maximum firepower. 1 shot, then we break off and recover our pilot." They dove toward the Star Destroyer's command tower, that distinctive structure rising from the ship's superstructure like a proud target. 4 plasma beams converged on the tower's shields, overwhelming them through concentrated fire, then punching through the reinforced transparasteel viewports. The bridge explosive decompressed, killing everyone inside instantly. Leaderless, the Star Destroyer's automated systems struggled to compensate. Its weapons fire became erratic, its maneuvering sluggish. "All Rebel fighters, concentrate on that Star Destroyer," Akbar ordered. "Finish it." X-Wings and A-Wings swarmed the crippled vessel, their proton torpedoes and laser cannons exploiting every weakness. Within minutes, the Star Destroyer was a hulk, powerless, defenseless, no longer a threat. "Fox leader to Home 1, O'Neill transmitted. Space superiority achieved. We've got a pilot in vacuum who needs immediate recovery. Dispatching search and rescue shuttle. Colonel, you should also know, ground forces report mission success. Imperial command has been disrupted. The civilian population is being evacuated to safe zones. We're winning." O'Neill allowed himself a tight smile. "Don't jinx it, Admiral. We're not done until we're gone." On Lothal's surface, Daniel coordinated the civilian evacuation from a makeshift command post in the city's central square. Thousands of people flooded through processing stations, families clutching belongings, children crying, elderly being helped by younger citizens, all of them desperate to escape before Imperial reinforcements arrived. "Dr. Jackson." A Rebel liaison officer rushed over, datapad in hand. "We've got a problem. One of the evacuation transports was damaged during the fighting, it can't achieve orbit. We're 200 people over capacity on the remaining ships. Daniel's stomach sank. How long until Imperial reinforcements arrive? Our scouts report a Star Destroyer group jumped into the system 15 minutes ago. They'll be in bombardment range within the hour. 1 hour. 200 people who wouldn't fit on the evacuation ships. Daniel's mind raced through options, each worse than the last. Leave them behind. Unacceptable. Stay and wait for another transport. There wasn't time. Cram them onto ships already over capacity. That risked everyone if life support failed. Contact Home 1, Daniel said urgently. Tell them we need emergency transport capacity for 200 civilians. Can they send shuttles? The liaison officer checked. Home 1 is still engaged with the damaged Star Destroyer in high orbit. Their shuttles can't break off for at least 30 minutes. Sir, we don't have 30 minutes. Daniel looked at the crowd of civilians waiting desperately for salvation. Families. Children. People who'd done nothing except exist under Imperial occupation. Then we make room, he said quietly. Rebels and military personnel give up their seats. We stay behind, hold the perimeter, and wait for the second wave of transports. Dr. Jackson, if we stay behind with Imperial reinforcements incoming. I know. Daniel met the officer's eyes. But we don't leave civilians to die. That's not who we are. The word spread quickly. Rebel soldiers and Odyssey Marines began disembarking from packed transports, making room for civilians. Some argued, but most understood, they'd signed up for this fight. The civilians hadn't. Within 20 minutes, the last evacuation transport lifted off, carrying the final group of civilians to safety. And on the ground, Daniel stood with 300 soldiers, rebels and Earth personnel alike, watching Imperial Star Destroyers descend through the atmosphere like falling angels of death. Well, Sergeant Harriman said conversationally, checking his weapon, this is going to be interesting. Daniel couldn't help but laugh. Interesting. That's one word for it. Dr. Jackson, TLC's voice came over the comm, I am inbound to your position with 2 transport shuttles. We will not abandon you. TLC, you can't. We can and we will. O'Neill would never forgive me if I allowed you to face this alone. Hold your position. We will extract you before the Imperial fleet arrives. On the tactical display, Daniel watched TLC's shuttles racing toward their position while Star Destroyers closed in from orbit. It was going to be close. Impossibly close. All right, people, Daniel called out. We've got a ride coming. We just need to hold this position for 10 more minutes. 10 minutes. One of the rebel soldiers laughed nervously. Against Star Destroyers? Yeah. Daniel checked his own weapon, a Beretta he'd carried since his first mission through the Stargate. So let's make sure they're the longest 10 minutes the Empire ever experiences. The Star Destroyers opened fire. Turbolaser bolts rained from orbit, reducing empty buildings to rubble, creating craters where Imperial facilities had stood. But the Imperial fleet was being careful, they wanted the city intact enough to reoccupy, which meant limited bombardment. That caution bought precious minutes. TLC's shuttles screamed into the city at maximum speed, kicking up dust and debris. Board now, his voice commanded. We have no time for organization, get everyone aboard. 300 soldiers scrambled into shuttles designed for 50. They packed themselves like sardines, standing shoulder to shoulder, some hanging onto external handholds. Go! Daniel shouted as the last soldier grabbed hold. The shuttles lifted off with power they weren't designed to handle, overloaded and barely contralating. Through the viewports, Daniel watched as turbolaser fire intensified, the Star Destroyers realizing their prey was escaping. Evasive maneuvers. TLC commanded, throwing the shuttle into a banking turn that would have made O'Neill proud. Green energy bolts passed within meters. Warning alarms shrieked. The shuttle's shields flickered and failed. But they climbed. Meter by meter, kilometer by kilometer, pushing through atmosphere into the safety of space. Where Home 1 waited, weapons covering their escape. All personnel aboard, TLC reported. Casualties minimal. Mission successful. On Home 1's bridge, Leia closed her eyes in relief. Admiral, order fleet retreat. We've accomplished our objective. Let's go home. All ships, jump to hyperspace, Akbar commanded. The rebel fleet vanished into the blue-white tunnel of faster-than-light travel, leaving Lothal's liberation as proof that the Empire could be defeated. 3 days later, O'Neill stood in Home 1's observation deck, watching hyperspace flow past in hypnotic patterns. The mission had been successful, 20,000 civilians saved, Imperial garrison disrupted, minimal rebel casualties. By any military metric, it was a victory. But O'Neill couldn't shake the weight of what they'd lost. Fox 3's pilot had been recovered alive but injured. 3 soldiers had died holding the evacuation perimeter. And somewhere in the debris field around Ord Mantell, the Odyssey's wreckage drifted as a monument to impossible choices. Colonel. He turned to find Leia approaching, 2 glasses of something blue and mildly alcoholic in her hands. Senator. Leia, please. We've been through enough battles together that formality seems ridiculous. She handed him a glass. This is Corellian brandy. Or at least, it was before the Empire seized most of the distilleries. Now it's whatever the smugglers claim is Corellian brandy. O'Neill accepted it with a slight smile. Thanks. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching hyperspace flow. You know what bothers me most about this war? Leia said quietly. It's not the battles. It's not even the losses. It's the fact that every victory feels hollow because we know how much more there is to do. We saved Lothal. But there are thousands of worlds still suffering under Imperial occupation. How many can we save before we run out of ships, soldiers, and hope? As many as possible, O'Neill replied. Leia, I've fought wars against enemies who claim to be gods. Beings with power you can't imagine, commanding resources that made the Empire look insignificant. And you know what I learned? It doesn't matter how big the enemy is. What matters is whether you keep fighting. But how do you keep fighting when the odds are impossible? O'Neill looked at her, this young woman carrying the weight of a galactic rebellion on her shoulders, and recognized the question he'd asked himself 1,000 times. You remember why you started, he said simply. You remember the people you're fighting for. And you trust that doing the right thing eventually leads to winning, even when it doesn't feel like it. Leia smiled sadly. That sounds like hope. Very Jedi-like for someone who doesn't believe in the Force. Maybe your Force and my experience aren't so different. O'Neill raised his glass. To hope, then. And to victories that feel hollow but matter anyway. They drank. Outside, hyperspace continued its endless dance. And deep in the Imperial Palace on Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine listened to reports of Lothal's liberation with cold fury. This Colonel O'Neill and his crew have become more than an annoyance, he hissed to Vader, who knelt before the throne. They inspire the rebellion. They provide technological advantages. They disrupt our operations. Lord Vader, you will make them your priority. Above all other concerns. Find them. Destroy them. I want their heads delivered to this throne room. Yes, my master. And Lord Vader. When you find them, Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed with malice. Make their deaths slow. Make their suffering legendary. Let the galaxy know what happens to those who defy the Empire. As Vader departed, Palpatine contemplated the intergalactic threat that had landed in his domain. These people from Earth, with their Asgard technology, their impossible courage, their refusal to submit, represented something the Empire could not tolerate, genuine hope. And hope was the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. It would have to be extinguished. Permanently. 6 months. That's how long SG-1 and the Odyssey's survivors had been fighting alongside the Rebel Alliance when everything changed. O'Neill sat in Home One's conference room, surrounded by holographic projections showing fleet deployments, supply routes, and Imperial positions. The past half-year had been a blur of operations, raids on Imperial convoys, evacuations of threatened populations, sabotage missions against key installations. Small victories that added up to something larger, momentum. The rebellion was growing. New cells formed on worlds inspired by Lothal's liberation. Defections from Imperial ranks increased. And at the center of it all, the legend of the crew from another galaxy who'd sacrificed their ship rather than let it fall into enemy hands. But legends had a price. Imperial intelligence has identified 73% of our major bases, Kraken reported grimly, updating the tactical display. They're using some kind of new tracking technology, possibly derived from analyzing the Odyssey's wreckage. Our safe havens are becoming death traps. Carter, now officially serving as the Alliance's chief technology officer, shook her head. General, I've analyzed the Imperial sensor signatures from recent raids. This isn't reverse-engineered Asgard technology. This is something else. They're tracking hyperspace signatures with unprecedented accuracy. Every time we jump, we leave a trail they can follow. Then we stop jumping, Akbar suggested. Maintain radio silence, use sublight travel, avoid their sensors entirely. That would reduce our operational effectiveness by 90%, Leia countered. We'd be hiding, not fighting. The Empire wins if we go into hiding. O'Neill studied the holographic projections, his tactical mind working through scenarios. What if we gave them something bigger to chase? Something so important they'd have to commit their best assets. You're suggesting a diversion? Daniel asked. He'd spent the past 6 months establishing diplomatic channels with neutral systems, trying to build support for the rebellion through words rather than weapons. The work suited him. More than a diversion. A statement. O'Neill stood, manipulating the holographic display to show a familiar system. Coruscant. The Imperial capital. The room fell silent. Colonel, Akbar said carefully, Coruscant is the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. Thousands of ships, planetary shields, the Emperor himself. I'm not suggesting we invade, O'Neill interrupted. I'm suggesting we make them think we might. We create enough threat that Vader has to pull resources from hunting us to defending the capital. While he's distracted, we hit something that actually matters. Like what? Leia leaned forward, interested despite the insanity of the proposal. Carter pulled up new data. Senator, based on intercepted Imperial communications, I've identified a pattern. The Empire is constructing something in the Ender system, deep core territory, extremely remote. They've diverted massive resources there. Star Destroyer construction has slowed galaxy-wide because materials are being rerouted to this project. What kind of project requires that level of resources? Kraken asked. I don't know, Carter admitted. But whatever it is, the Emperor considers it critical. If we could determine what they're building, or better yet, sabotage it, we'd strike a genuine blow against Imperial power. TLC, who'd been silent throughout the meeting, spoke thoughtfully. A two-pronged strategy. Create a threat to Coruscant that draws Imperial forces, then strike their true weakness while they are distracted. It is bold. Perhaps too bold. Or bold enough to work, O'Neill replied. Admiral, what would it take to make the Empire believe Coruscant was under genuine threat? Akbar studied the projections. A fleet. At least 20 capital ships, plus fighter support. We'd need to approach close enough to trigger their defensive networks without actually engaging. The mere presence of that much force would force them to respond. We don't have 20 capital ships, Leia said flatly. No, but we have something better. O'Neill smiled slightly. We have 6 F-302 fighters with Asgard technology that the Empire still doesn't understand. What if we modified them to generate sensor signatures that mimic capital ships? Make 6 fighters look like a fleet on Imperial sensors? Carter's eyes widened. Holographic projectors combined with shield modulation and false transponder signals. Sir, that's brilliant. The Empire's sensors would read us as a major fleet until they got close enough for visual confirmation, by which time we'd already accomplished our objective. Which is making them panic, O'Neill said simply. We make the Empire think their capital is under attack, draw Vader and his best forces to defend it, and while they're busy protecting Palpatine, our real strike team infiltrates the Ender system and discovers what they're hiding. Leia stood, moving to the holographic display. It's insane. Reckless. Exactly the kind of desperate gambit the Empire wouldn't expect from us. She looked at O'Neill. How many people for the Ender infiltration? Small team. 4 people maximum. Any more and we increase detection risk. O'Neill glanced at his team. I'm thinking SG-1. Senator, we'll need political cover, something to justify a potential assault on the capital in case Imperial intelligence intercepts our communications. I'll draft a declaration, Leia said. The Alliance formally rejecting Imperial authority, demanding the Emperor's abdication, threatening military action if he refuses. It'll be propaganda, but it'll sell the deception. Perfect. O'Neill looked around the room. Alright, people. We've been playing defense for 6 months. Time to play offense. Let's remind the Empire why they should have killed us when they had the chance. 46 hours later, the modified F-302 fighters approached Coruscant's outer defensive perimeter. O'Neill piloted the lead fighter, Carter in the second, with 4 veteran rebel pilots in the remaining craft. Each F-302 had been extensively modified, holographic projectors creating the visual illusion of Mon Calamari cruisers, shield harmonics adjusted to mimic capital ship energy signatures, transponders broadcasting Alliance command codes. On Imperial sensors, 6 fighters would appear as a 6-ship battle group. Alright, Fox Squadron, O'Neill transmitted. Remember, we're not here to fight. We're here to be seen, make them nervous, then get the hell out. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. We spook them and run. Copy that, Colonel, the responses came back. They crossed into Coruscant's detection range. Immediately, alarms began shrieking across Imperial command networks. At the Imperial Security Bureau headquarters, junior officers stared at sensor readings that showed a rebel fleet approaching the capital. Impossible, insane, but happening. Alert the Executor, a commander shouted. Get Lord Vader online immediately. Within the Imperial Palace, Palpatine listened to the reports with cold calculation. A fleet. Approaching Coruscant. The rebellion has never possessed such audacity. Master, it may be the forces from Earth, Vader suggested via holographic transmission from the Executor, currently 3 systems away. They have demonstrated unconventional tactics before. Then you will intercept them, Lord Vader. Coruscant must not be threatened. Divert all available forces. Destroy this fleet before it reaches the inner system. Yes, my master. Across the galaxy, Star Destroyers received emergency deployment orders. Fleets converged on Coruscant from a dozen sectors, abandoning patrol routes, breaking off from ongoing operations, all rushing to defend the capital. Including the 6 Star Destroyers that had been guarding the Ender system. It's working, Carter transmitted. Imperial forces are repositioning exactly as predicted. Sir, Ender's defenses just dropped to skeleton strength. Good. O'Neill checked his tactical display. The Imperial fleet was 30 minutes out and closing fast. Time to make our exit. All fighters, break formation and scatter. Execute randomized hyperspace jumps as briefed. Make them chase ghosts. The 6 F-302s deactivated their holographic projectors and scattered in different directions, each jumping to pre-planned coordinates that would lead Imperial pursuers on wild chases across multiple sectors. By the time Vader's fleet arrived at Coruscant, there was nothing to find. The Dark Lord stared at empty space where sensors had reported a rebel fleet minutes before. A deception, he said quietly. They were never going to attack Coruscant. This was a diversion. His mechanical breathing accelerated slightly, the closest he came to showing alarm. Navigator, what Imperial installations have reduced defenses due to this redeployment? The sensor officer checked. Multiple systems, Lord Vader. But the largest force reduction is, the Ender system. 6 Star Destroyers were recalled to defend the capital. Vader's fists clenched. They know. Somehow, they discovered the Emperor's project. Set course for Ender, maximum speed. And transmit to Imperial Command, the rebels are targeting the Death Star. In the Ender system, SG-1's stolen Imperial shuttle drifted toward the construction site with transponder codes that identified it as a supply vessel. Those codes better work, O'Neill muttered, watching the massive structure come into view. It was a moon. A moon made of metal, bristling with weapons, with a superlaser dish large enough to be visible from thousands of kilometers away. Even incomplete, it was the most terrifying weapon O'Neill had ever seen. What is that? Daniel breathed. Carter's instruments were going wild. Sir, that's a battle station. The power signatures are, oh God. That superlaser is designed for planetary bombardment. Based on the energy readings, a single shot could destroy a world. A weapon to destroy planets, TLC said grimly. The Emperor builds tools of genocide. Yeah, well, we're going to break his toy. O'Neill adjusted their approach vector. Carter, can we sabotage it? Sir, that station is over 100 kilometers in diameter. We'd need weeks and a full demolition team to cause significant damage. She studied her readings. But there's something odd. The station's shields are incomplete, there's a gap in the equatorial trench. And I'm detecting a thermal exhaust port that leads directly to the main reactor. It's heavily shielded, but not closed off. A design flaw, Daniel realized. They built a planet killer with a vulnerability. Typical Imperial arrogance, O'Neill agreed. Alright, we document everything, design specs, shield gaps, structural weaknesses. We take this intel back to the Alliance and figure out how to kill this thing before the Emperor can use it. They drifted closer, scanners recording every detail. Then Carter's console lit up with warnings. Sir, multiple hyperspace signatures. Imperial fleet just jumped in system. How many? 12 Star Destroyers. And Colonel, her voice went quiet. The Executor is with them. Vader's here. Of course he is. O'Neill spun the shuttle. Get those scans finished. We need that data before we run. Done. Transferring to isolated storage. Carter worked frantically. Colonel, they're hailing us. They want our clearance codes verified. Give them the codes. Buy us 30 seconds. The shuttle transmitted its forged identification. For a moment, it seemed to work. Then Vader's voice filled the cockpit, cold and final. Unknown shuttle. You are not Imperial personnel. Your deception ends now. Prepare to be boarded. Tractor beams reached out from the nearest Star Destroyer, invisible fingers of force preparing to snare them. Carter, any brilliant ideas? O'Neill asked. 1. She pulled up the scan data of the Death Star. That thermal exhaust port I mentioned. It's a direct line to the main reactor. If we fired our missiles into it, we'd start a chain reaction, O'Neill finished. How big? Conservative estimate. Enough to cripple the station. Optimistic estimate. Total destruction. Daniel stared at her. Sam, we'd never make it out. The explosion would vaporize us before we could jump to hyperspace. I know. The four of them exchanged glances, SG-1, together as always, facing impossible odds. "There has to be another way," Daniel insisted. "There is," TLC said quietly. He moved to the weapons station. "You three will take the escape pod. I will remain and ensure the missiles strike true." TLC, "No," O'Neill started. "O'Neill, you know I am correct. Someone must stay to guide the weapons to their target. The guidance systems are manually operated. And of the four of us, I am best suited to face death with honor." TLC's expression was serene. "I have lived many lifetimes. I have seen my people freed from slavery. I have fought alongside warriors I am proud to call friends. This is a good death." "We're not leaving you," Carter said firmly. "You must." TLC placed his hand on O'Neill's shoulder. "My friend. My brother. You have taught me much about being human. Now let me teach you one final lesson. Sometimes, the greatest victory requires the greatest sacrifice." The tractor beam was seconds from locking on. O'Neill looked at TLC, the Jaffa warrior who'd risked everything to join SG-1, who'd become family, who'd saved their lives countless times, and saw absolute resolve. "Damn you," O'Neill whispered. "Indeed." TLC smiled slightly. "Now go. And tell the rebellion that Earth remembers how to win." Carter moved first, pulling Daniel toward the escape pod. O'Neill hesitated one last moment, memorizing his friend's face. "Tekmate, TLC. Tekmate, O'Neill." The escape pod jettisoned, its tiny drive pushing it away from the shuttle at maximum acceleration. TLC watched them go, then turned to the weapons console. He armed both missiles, set them to manual guidance, and aimed for the thermal exhaust port that Carter had identified. "Executor, this is the stolen shuttle," he transmitted. "I am TLC of Chulak, first prime of Apophis, betrayer of false gods, warrior of the Tauri. I bring you greetings from Earth, Lord Vader. May they be the last thing you ever receive." He fired. 2 missiles streaked toward the Death Star's surface, TLC guiding them through point defense fire with hands that had wielded staff weapons for over a century. The missiles wove through turbo-laser bolts, adjusted for targeting computers, and dove into the thermal exhaust port. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the Death Star's reactor went critical. The explosion started at the core and expanded outward at near-light speed, consuming the massive station from within. The superlaser, capable of destroying worlds, never fired a single shot. Instead, it became the epicenter of a detonation that lit up the Ender system like a newborn sun. Vader, watching from the Executor, had one moment of realization before his ship's shields overloaded from the shockwave. The Death Star, the Emperor's ultimate weapon, years in construction, trillions of credits invested, was gone. And with it, TLC of Chulak. The escape pod limped into hyperspace seconds before the explosion reached it. Inside, O'Neill sat in silence, staring at nothing. Carter's eyes were red. Daniel had his head in his hands. They'd won. They'd destroyed the Empire's superweapon and dealt a blow that would echo across the galaxy. But the cost. "He saved us," Daniel whispered. "He saved everyone." "He always did," O'Neill replied, his voice hollow. "That's who he was." 3 days later, the Rebel Alliance fleet gathered at a hidden rendezvous point to receive SG-1's report. The news of the Death Star's destruction spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, occupied worlds erupted in celebration. Rebel cells doubled their recruitment. Imperial morale plummeted. And in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine screamed with rage. 20 years of planning. Trillions of credits. My ultimate weapon, destroyed by 4 people. His lightning crackled through the throne room, scorching walls and terrifying servants. "Vader, I want them dead. I want their world found and burned. I want every trace of Earth erased from existence." "Yes, my master," Vader replied, kneeling before the Fury. But privately, as he returned to the executor, Vader contemplated what he'd witnessed. One warrior, sacrificing himself to save billions. It reminded him of something. Someone. A memory from before the mask, before the darkness, before Vader. A Jedi, perhaps. Someone who had believed that one person could make a difference. The memory faded, locked behind walls of pain and hate. But it had existed, if only for a moment. On Home 1, a memorial service was held for TLC of Chulak. Hundreds attended, rebel soldiers who'd fought beside him, civilians he'd saved, Alliance leadership who'd respected his warrior wisdom. O'Neill stood before them all, struggling with words that wouldn't come. Finally, he simply said, "TLC once told me that freedom was worth any price. Today, he proved it. The Death Star is gone because one man chose to sacrifice everything to protect the innocent. That's not just courage. That's the definition of hero." He paused, then added, "The Empire thinks they won because they survived. They're wrong. We won because TLC showed the galaxy that even overwhelming power can be defeated by someone willing to pay the price. The rebellion survives because of people like him. And someday, when this war is over and the Empire is dust, people will remember the Jaffa warrior from Earth who refused to let evil win." Leia stepped forward, placing a hand on O'Neill's shoulder. "The Alliance owes TLC a debt we can never repay. But we can honor his sacrifice by finishing what he started. By winning this war. By building the free galaxy he died to protect." The assembled crowd stood in silence, honoring a warrior from another galaxy who'd given everything for people he'd never met. And across the stars, the war continued. But now, the rebellion had hope. Real, tangible hope that the Empire could be defeated. Because if 4 people from Earth could destroy the Death Star, what could an entire galaxy accomplish if it chose to fight? The months that followed TLC's sacrifice transformed the Galactic Civil War. The Death Star's destruction shattered the Emperor's aura of invincibility. Systems that had submitted out of fear began to resist. Imperial defections accelerated. The Rebel Alliance swelled from thousands to millions, fueled by the knowledge that even the Empire's most powerful weapon could be destroyed. O'Neill, Carter, and Daniel continued fighting alongside the Alliance, their tactics and technology providing crucial advantages in battle after battle. The Odyssey's survivors integrated fully into Rebel command structure, becoming legends in their own right, warriors from beyond the stars who refused to surrender. But Earth remained unreachable, separated by a dimensional barrier that no technology in the Star Wars galaxy could breach. The crew accepted, gradually, that they might never go home. That this galaxy, this war, this cause, these had become their home. Senator Organa and Admiral Akbar coordinated with O'Neill on increasingly ambitious operations, each one pushing the Empire back, each one freeing more worlds from tyranny. The Alliance transformed from a desperate resistance into a genuine military force capable of challenging Imperial dominance. Emperor Palpatine, enraged by the loss of his superweapon, unleashed Vader with orders to hunt down the remaining SG-1 members at any cost. The pursuit became personal, the Dark Lord obsessed with destroying those who had humiliated the Empire. But O'Neill had spent 30 years evading enemies who claimed to be gods. One Sith Lord, no matter how powerful, was just another challenge to overcome. The final confrontation between Earth and the Empire remained ahead, inevitable and approaching. When it came, it would decide not just the fate of the rebellion, but whether the gateway between galaxies would remain closed, or whether Palpatine would find a way to bring his darkness to Earth itself. For now, though, the Rebel Alliance fought with renewed purpose. They fought for the billions still suffering under Imperial occupation. They fought for the memory of TLC, whose sacrifice had given them hope. And they fought because 3 people from Earth, Colonel Jack O'Neill, Major Samantha Carter, and Dr. Daniel Jackson, had shown them that victory was possible if you were willing to pay the price. The Empire had thought they were unstoppable. Earth had proven them wrong. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, people whispered a new phrase that captured the spirit of resistance. Remember the Odyssey. Remember TLC. Remember that even empires fall. The war was far from over. But for the first time in 20 years, the outcome was no longer certain. The Force had brought SG-1 to this galaxy for a reason. And that reason was becoming clear, to teach the Empire that some people, some causes, some sacrifices, were worth more than all the power in the universe. May the Force be with them. And may Earth's courage never be forgotten. May the Force be with you. More stories await.